28 on the calendar in the matter of Grider versus Marat Trombley. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
According to the complaint that I've read, the two of you moved in with these people and agreed that instead of paying them rent, they would use one of your two. That seemed like a good barter. You didn't have to pay any. Unfortunately, you got into an accident.
Yes, ma'am.
And the truck was damaged.
Yes, ma'am.
There was no collision insurance on the truck. You want them to pay for the damages.
Yes, ma'am.
They say that they believe that since you stayed in the house after the truck was damaged and since they weren't using the truck, you should pay rent. Not so sure about that. That there's a phone bill that's outstanding, that is a relatively large phone bill, and that they want storage fees because they put some of their furniture in storage when you moved in to accommodate your furniture. We'll see about that. Tell me about the accident.
Well, I was going down out of our apartment, and the school traffic was backed up, and there was a gap, and the lady waved me on to come out. And I went to come out, and the car was coming on the other side and hit me.
Okay, the other car had the right of way.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the accident was your fault.
Yes, ma'am.
This was a 1990 truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Had it been in good condition prior to that?
No, ma'am.
How long were you driving it?
Probably a week, 2 weeks.
Drove okay?
Yes, ma'am.
You have photographs, I see.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have the final pricing because we've actually had the vehicle fixed.
You need both of these. Just
I have the estimate for having it fixed, and then we had the final pricing because he had to do some work on it that he wasn't expecting to do.
Where was the car hit? In the front?
Yes, ma'am. On the driver's side front.
Now I see. In the front, on the driver's side.
Yes, ma'am.
It hit the front of the truck and pushed everything back, the cab back, and all that stuff. It shows in the pictures.
Did you have it fixed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can I see the paid bill, please? And the estimates.
This is the paid bill, and this is the estimate.
Did you take the truck to a place that you knew? Because according to the defendant, you got an original estimate for $900.
Yes, ma'am.
The original $900 estimate was because it was a friend of ours. He had some free time, and if we could get it done quickly, he'd do it then. But there was a lot of other work that he had to do, so he had to give us the normal price rather than friend's price because it took us so long to get the money together. He had to. His boss wouldn't let him do it that way. So
this is not his own place?
No.
What's his name?
His name is Steve.
Steve what?
I don't know. I called him Steve from Arrowhead.
Well, the owner is Steve. Does that sound right?
Yes, it does, ma'am.
Well, he's the owner.
I'm sorry, I was mistaken then.
He doesn't do the work. One of his other people do the work.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
If he's an employee, I can understand your story, because that's part of their defense, that the new estimate, which is over 2 times as much as what you originally quoted, was outrageous. So what you just said to me was, if you brought it in right then, he could do it immediately, but his boss wouldn't let him do it if he brought it in later. Well, he has no boss. He's the owner, according to the card you just gave me.
I was mistaken.
Good. You have a canceled check?
No.
Pay cash.
We pay cash.
Well, that's unfortunate. I would have paid by check if I were you.
Well, I was paying in payments to him. We didn't actually have a bank account at the time.
Well, somehow you're going to have to pay for this with $900.
We've already paid for it. But
I'm not sure that you have.
Unfortunately, I haven't got
I'm not sure that you have. What?
Ma'am, I got some pictures. I was going to a friend's house, and I seen the same truck parked, and it's still got dents in it.
I'd like to see that. When were these taken?
About a week ago.
Who took them?
I did.
Ricky did.
This is the truck.
Yes, it was interior damage that was mainly fixed on it, the radiator and the alignment that was messed up due to the fact of it getting
The doors
hit.
are fixed, everything.
But they were
Removed
pushed
front
back. And we
bumper,
could...
sit on the left side, replaced radiator core support with a used one.
Yes.
Paint and blend fender and hood to doors.
He didn't replace the fender, I don't think. I think he just repaired it and tried to straighten it up because we just didn't have the money to repair it.
He's got a junkyard out there. And
Very good. I'm telling you, what I just said to you goes 2 times. You're going to have to find a way to pay for it with $900. Because I'm not convinced that you paid $1,900 to fix it after you told them that it would be $900. I don't believe your story. All right, now, let us move on to your counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a phone bill?
Yes,
ma'am.
I have quite a few of them. Well, she said that she would pay the whole phone bill because she was adding this plan onto our phone so she could stay in contact with her family. And within doing that, she would pay the whole thing.
The Verizon long distance on this bill from the United Kingdom was $302.21. The billing date here is 1/16/06. Do you have a paid bill for December 16th to January 15th?
We were there in December in their house.
Well, did you pay this bill?
No, I didn't because I didn't get to see it because
All
we
right.
moved out. So
Now, give me the storage, please.
I think the storage that they were talking about was they had a keg in our storage.
I'm not talking to you. I'm
It's
talking
a
to
love seat,
A blue chair,
blue
and
chair
a
and a
fish
fish
tank.
that we had put in there. It was inside the room that they were going to move in, and it was all clustered up in there. In order for them to be able to move around that room, they had to take it out, and they had a storage, and they asked if they could put it in their storage, and we said that was no problem, as long as we got it back.
Okay, so now you have these things in their storage. What
Yes,
do you
ma'am.
want?
We just want them back.
That's perfectly fine. We'd never been able to get in contact with them. They disappeared off the face of the earth. So
Fine.
we're quite happy to give them that
When
back.
do you want to meet at the storage to get your stuff?
Well, we had contacted them, and
When do you want to meet at the storage
As soon
to
as
get
we
your
get back
stuff?
home.
as soon as we can, but we had
But they can't
contacted
get
them.
stuff out of their storage because
'Cause
they
they-
have not paid their
since-
bill since December, and
And
they are
that's it.
delinquent, and they can't even get anything out because they haven't
that
paid.
true?
We sent a check to the wrong address.
Is that true?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
Well, they're going to sell your stuff.
Basically, I'd sent them a money order, but I'd sent the money order to the wrong address.
You're like an accident looking to happen.
I know. I just wrote down the wrong P.O. box number.
Okay, we'll give them 2 weeks to get their act together. 2 weeks.
And also, while they were staying in that room, they were always fighting, and there's a hole that they had
Oh,
punched in
fix
the
it.
wall.
Stop being a baby.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
The person checked him in through the doors.
Judge Judy. Michael and Helen Greiderns, Brian Marak, and Ricky Trombley owe for wrecking their truck. Brian and Ricky are countersuing for rent, a phone bill, and storage fees.
Okay, you get $900 to fix your car. That was the original estimate before you inflated it. From that, I'm deducting the $324 for the long-distance phone bills to talk to your family in the UK, leaving you with $576. Judgment for the plaintiff.
21-year-old Nicole McIntyre for unpaid fees. Nicole says she's paid more than her share.
Miss Wade, you run a daycare center.
Yes.
When did Miss McIntyre enroll her 2 children?
In October of 2004.
How did you find Miss Wade's program?
I knew her from Welcome Home Babies, First Time Moms. I had known her previous to her daycare.
How much was the daycare each week?
$125, I think, but the state paid it.
The state paid it directly to you?
Yes.
Okay. And when did you remove the children from her care?
At the end of November, I believe.
So they were there for a short period of time.
Correct.
How long were they there, Miss Wade?
They started on October the 25th, and Nicole came into my daycare on November the 29th and informed me that she was removing them from my care.
Okay. A little more than a month. And how many weeks in total did you get paid $125 from the state?
First of all, it was $155 for full time.
Well, who paid you the $155?
Her subsidizing agency, Contra Costa County.
How many weeks were you paid? Is my question.
I don't know the exact number of weeks.
Well, that's what we're here for, so let's figure it out, Miss Wade. What was the total amount you were paid?
$1,025, and here's the evidence of that.
Just a second. And you were supposed to be paid $155 a week?
Yes.
Well, you were actually paid 6.5 weeks in total. I'm just telling you that that's what it is. I've just done the math.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you want to tell me under what circumstances you removed the children from school?
Yeah, I removed them because she said my children had head lice, and she told me in order to bring them back to shave their hair and to bring a doctor's note. I went and got a doctor's note, and I cut their hair to really short. I have pictures if you'd like to see pictures.
I'd like to see it.
And then I brought them back. I think it was a week later after all the treatments and all that. And she said the person checked them in through the doors saying that they were clear, they didn't have head lice. 2 hours later, she called me back saying they did, and that I could not bring them back unless I shaved their heads bald. So that's why I did not bring my kids back.
Is that the conversation that you had?
No, it's not.
Did she cut the children's hair? I mean, I have photographs.
Initially, the boys had headlights. We contacted her. She was very upset, and she said, well, maybe it could be from one of the other kids. How do you know it's my boys? I said, well, my teachers have inspected all of the children's hair, and it's definitely your boys. And she did take them out for that day. We had to close the daycare down. We had to quarantine. I had to notify all of the parents.
Right. That's what you have to do. But then she says that she brought you a doctor's note. Did she?
Yes, she did.
And do you have that doctor's note
Yes,
with you?
I do.
Can I see it, please? Okay, this is November the 18th. No head lice noted on exam this evening for both boys. Okay? So now she's got a doctor's note that says that the boys are clear, and she's cut their hair. What happened next?
I allowed her to return the boys to childcare, which was fine. And then what happened was the very next day, the teacher detected headlights. So again, they searched the boys' hair. We examined all of the other children, and I documented
Fine.
that
Okay.
they had the headlights, and I asked her to remove them.
So you told her to remove the children.
I
On
asked
what
them
date?
to treat the hair.
On what date did you tell her to remove the
That
children?
day, I said they have to go home.
So that was on the 19th.
Right, and they still had headlights.
Did she bring the children back?
I told her she could.
Did she?
No.
Did she bring the children back after the 19th?
I actually have her sign-in sheet for that month. She returned them to school for another week. They did return.
Just a second. So you mean after you told her to take the children out for the second time, you saying she came back?
Yeah.
Is that right?
No, it's not. I did not bring my kids back. I signed sick because they were absent that week.
Let me see the sign-in sheet that says she brought them back after you told her to take them back out a second time. No, she didn't bring them back. It says here that they were sick.
May I respond?
Sick holiday. So the children weren't there. So at most they were there, at most, if I believe this, they were there to the 24th.
May I respond?
Not the 29th, and you got paid for 6.5 weeks. Miss Wade, I have no idea why you're here, quite frankly, because the children were there at most 5 weeks. You got paid by the state for 6.5 weeks. So at most we're talking about 3 days that you didn't get paid, not when you watched the children, but you were paid for every day that those children were there, and you were paid for a week and a half when the children weren't there by the state. And I have absolutely, Miss Wade, no intention of directing her to pay you for the additional partial week when you had previously told her, do not bring the children back until they are free from head lice, and her doctor said they were free from head lice. So your case is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Lauritsen, step forward, please.
Corinne Calabrese and her daughter, 12-year-old Alexis, are suing Chris Lauritsen and his daughter, 12-year-old Chelsea, for vet bills. The plaintiffs claim the defendant's cat attacked their basset hound.
Miss Calabrese, your daughter and the defendant's daughter were friends. You are next-door neighbors. And according to your complaint, the defendant's cat injured your dog. The injury became infected, requiring a substantial vet bill to get the dog back into shape. The defendant says it was a dog and cat fight. You should have dressed the wound a little bit better. His cat was also injured, and that's what happens when cats and dogs get together. Is that correct, sir?
Yeah, it is.
Chelsea, tell me about your cat.
Well, he got scratched above the eye and everything. And
what kind of a cat is it?
I really don't know.
Does he stay in your house most of the time?
Yes.
And what kind of dog was injured?
A purebred basset hound.
Basset?
Yes.
Big, sad-looking dog.
Yes.
What's your dog's name?
Fred.
And what's your cat's name?
Nemo.
Where did the fight take place?
It took place in my backyard.
How did Nemo get into the backyard, Chelsea?
He apparently followed me in, and we didn't realize he was there.
And?
And we had gone into the house to do something, and we came out, and he's sitting in the yard.
Go ahead, you want to say something?
We went inside to ask my mom a question, and we couldn't find her, and then we walked outside, and the cat was climbing over our fence, and then 2 seconds after the cat had climbed over my fence, my mom had came outside, and the dogs ran over to the cat, and then they had started fighting.
So the dogs ran over to the cat?
Yes.
Excuse me? It actually happened where I was sitting in the yard right by the fence, and Lexi told me to go get him over to my house before the dogs got to him, and I grabbed him, and the dogs ran at us, and my cat
jumped out of your hand?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Lauritsen, you're absolutely right when you say that dogs and cats fight. That's why you keep them separate.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
So if her dog jumped the fence, not that Fred could do that because basset hounds don't jump. Only on short stools. But let's say her dog could jump the fence and went into your backyard and injured your cat.
Uh-huh.
My response would be the same thing to you. If you keep your animal contained in your yard,
right,
and if there's a cat fight, then she pays for the damage to your dog. You have a responsibility, if you have an animal, to see to it that that animal is secured in your yard. Because you did not do that, I mean, your daughter, you, I don't care who it was, but you're the responsible adult, and there was damage, you're responsible.
Your Honor, the plain fact of the matter is, if the wound would have been properly dressed and cared for, she wouldn't have had to take the dog to the emergency ward.
Let me ask you this, sir.
Yeah?
Do you have medical proof of that?
No.
Well, that's just your opinion. What do you do for a living?
I landscape construction.
Well, since you don't have a degree in veterinary medicine, I can't take that as gospel, sir. All I can tell you is the damage was caused initially by your cat being in the wrong place, because that's what dogs and cats do. Can I see the vet bill, please?
Yes. Your Honor?
Yes.
How do we know the cat even caused the problem in the first place?
Because these are your neighbors. How long have they been your neighbors?
20 years.
20 years. In the 20 years that you've known them, how many times have you gotten into disputes with them?
Never.
Okay.
We've never had a dispute with our neighbors. We have problems with issues with their dogs sometimes, but that's just barking.
I mean, because they make noise.
Right.
As someone with a higher degree of education than I have once said, that's what dogs do.
Mm-hmm.
They bark. Okay. Mr. Lauritsen, you've been neighbors to these people for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
You've never had any serious problem with them.
Hmm.
I don't get the feeling that these people are trying to scam you, Mr. Lauritsen. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $326.21. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I came home.
226 on the calendar in the matter of Elmore versus Padilla. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have seats, please.
Mr. Elmore, the defendant is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, you loaned her the money to make her mortgage payment for about a year.
Yes, ma'am. It was about 10 months, probably. Yes, ma'am.
And you loaned her that money with the understanding that if she did not pay you back, the title to the mobile home would be put in your name.
Yes, ma'am. Either or, some kind of assurance that I'd get something out of it.
And Ms. Padilla says that there was never an agreement that you paid her mortgage, but that was like rent because you were, in fact, living there. Now, explain to me how it came about that your sister and your mother were together in this mobile home.
Well, I moved to Mexico, and after I moved there, my sister had my mother move in with her. I was down there about 5.5 to 6 months. I came back in, like, July.
Where did you stay when you came back to work in July of 2004?
For the first, probably, month and a half, I stayed at her trailer.
So from, let's say, July and August.
In August, I was in California, in San Francisco.
When in August?
The 1st of August, I got a job traveling, working in refineries.
So you spent 1 month with your sister and your mother?
Probably about that.
Is that about right?
I wasn't there during that timeout.
Who was there?
She was there, man.
All right, so you say she was there. So you lived there for a month in July. When did you have this conversation with her about the mortgage?
I'd say it was in June. The end of June.
So before you moved in?
Yeah, I was still in Mexico before we had this conversation.
So in Mexico, she called you and said what?
That she's a couple of months behind on her payment. They're about to repossess it, and she moved my mom in with her, and I didn't want my mom to be, stuck out because she didn't pay her bills.
So?
So I came back, and I got a job building swimming pools and started paying, And
okay.
She said that she wasn't working because she was waiting on a workman's comp thing to come through, which after a while,
don't speak to him. At my stage in life, I can only hear one person talk at a time.
Yes,
otherwise, I get confused.
But after a while, waiting on her workman's comp or whatever to start up so she could pay her own bills, it got kind of old. And she was quite a bit behind, about $1,100, I believe.
You were living in the trailer for the month of July.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would assume, at least for the month of July, you were going to pay some rent.
Yes, ma'am, but this month of July, I was paying a month of May's rent. I was paying her back payment.
If you paid her the back payment for the month of May, how much did you pay for rent in July when you were living there?
Well, I never had a set payment, I guess I would owe for that month of rent, but...
I guess you might.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you were working, right?
But see, none of that... Yes, ma'am. Right.
You don't think that she should pay for a time when you were living there and not paying rent?
Yes, ma'am, but I was paying her bills too, evidently, because she was not working. She had no income coming in whatsoever.
How much in total did you pay towards this trailer?
Trailer and utilities.
Trailer.
I don't really have an exact on just a trailer, but I would just send money orders, and whatever they put it on, that was that.
That was nice of you. I don't hear anything about a loan.
Yes, ma'am, that's what all this was a loan.
Well, that's what you're telling me, sir. That's not what they tell me.
Yes, ma'am, but I would not have come back, to pay all her bills. I was living in motels this entire time.
Not in July.
No, I got that job in August.
Not in July.
Or the past 5 months.
Listen to me. Where have you been living the last 5 months?
A couple of months I was there. But then she got mad because I wouldn't let her use my cell phone, so she told me to get out of her house. She ended up calling the police to have me removed.
Miss Petit?
But anyway, my roommate here, he was having to loan me money because I was sending all my checks
I'm
in.
talking about the last 5 months, Mr. Elmore. Where were you living?
I've been living with him for the last month and a half. And a little while next door to the house, believe it or not. Back. I stayed in the shed for about 3 weeks.
Mr. Elmore, you and I are not coming together on the same wavelength.
Yes, ma'am.
It's explained to me why you have a case of a loan.
Well, because
all of those things.
I paid off her trailer payment. Her trailer got paid for, and it all came from me, ma'am. Over $4,000 worth, and I was not living there.
Oh, Mr. Elmore.
I didn't have it separated.
Mr. Elmore.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have an argument with your sister?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
What was the argument about, Mr. Elmore?
It started over the cell phone. She asked to borrow my cell phone, I wouldn't let her.
Why?
I don't know.
You didn't feel like letting her?
Yes, ma'am.
So
no, I had no reason, but I just told her no. So
fine.
She told me to get out of her house, and I told her no. I said, I paid all this. so. She said it's in her name, and
So she said, it's in her name, get out of my house.
yeah, exactly. I refused to leave. Well, she called the police.
And what happened when the police got there?
They made me leave. I left.
Is that when you filed this lawsuit?
It was a few days after that, when I was living in that shed. You know, I was watching the TV, and I just happened to see your show, and afterwards I called, you know.
What is your last name?
Elmore.
Miss Elmore, who do you live with now?
I live in the trailer with my daughter.
What about her?
She has moved into the trailer with me and my daughter. She lived there.
So that when I ask you a question, I expect you to give me a full answer. You live in the trailer with your daughter and this lady?
Yes.
Who
yes,
else
ma'am.
lives there?
Just the three of us now.
Who pays the bills?
All three of us. Yes, ma'am.
Now, who was paying the bills, say, last July, August, September, October, November? Was your son paying the bills?
My son paid a lot. He did. I have never denied that, but I was paying too. It wasn't just Mike paying.
And your son contributed, according to him, some $4,000 over a 13-month period. Is that right?
Actually, it was more than that, but I've lost several receipts.
Now, Mr. Elmore,
Yes, ma'am.
would you be here today if it wasn't for this cell phone incident, sir?
Yes, ma'am. It had been going through my mind for a long time, you know, because I wanted my money back.
Well, you're not going to get all your money back, sir. You
I'm
lived
sure.
there for
I'm aware of that.
You lived there for 4 months.
Yes, ma'am. I'm aware of that.
Ma'am, he came back in March, and he did not leave again until the end of August, the last week of August.
March, April, May, June, July. So it's 6 months.
Not the last week of August. It was about the middle of August.
So the date on the last receipt I had was 5/5 of 05.
Just a
so
second.
that's May. That's not March, ma'am.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you saying your mother is a liar? She says you were there March, April, May, June, July, and part of August. So is what you're telling me that your mother is lying to me?
Yes, ma'am. I'm saying I was not there then.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Moore says his sister, Shauna Padilla, owes for loans to make her mortgage payments. Shauna is countersuing for damages to her property.
In March, he came back for how long?
It was about 2 weeks, I believe. And then he left out for the job. He never actually got to work on that job. He got sent back right after that.
And when did he come back?
I probably at the end of March.
So was he living in the trailer in April?
Yes, ma'am.
May?
Yes, ma'am.
June?
Yes, ma'am.
July?
Yes, ma'am.
And part of August?
No, ma'am,
Yes,
I was
ma'am.
not.
And part of August?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the previous July he was there when he came back from Mexico?
Yes, ma'am.
For 1 month?
Yes.
Miss Judy, she says that I was there before then. When like I said, I got the date on the first receipt that I paid is 7/14 of 04. I was paying a May 15th bill because when she called me, she was
listen
3
to me.
months back.
Listen to me, Mr. Elmore.
She got her dates confused, ma'am.
No, Mr. Elmore, listen to me carefully, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Your sister does not deny, nor will she deny to me today, that she called you and said, I've gotten behind in my bills.
I didn't call him, ma'am.
Or contacted him or whatever, and said, I need some help. She's not denying that you gave her some help because the mortgage was behind. What your family is saying to you is you lived there for a longer period than you've indicated to me today, not just a couple of days, which you say in your complaint, you know, that your employer pays for your motel and that's where you were living, that you were living there for a period of at least, according to both your mother, who I believe, and your sister, July, part of March, April, May, June, July, and part of August. So at least 6.5 months. And for that, living there for all of that time, you contributed $4,200. That's pretty reasonable. You have a roof over your head, you have gas, you have electric, you have food, you have whatever else it takes. And if you helped your family out for another 3.5 months, you don't come in here and bother me about that. What you're annoyed about is that your sister, for whatever reason, after you said she couldn't use your cell phone, told you to leave. So you got annoyed. And then you had nothing to do, so you went and watched me on television and said, aha! I'm going to go and file a small claims case. Mr. Elmore, Mr. Elmore, get a life. Case is dismissed.
These are excused. You may step out.
Excuse me.
I have a counterclaim.
It's dismissed.
Okay.
If he bothered you, annoyed you for a year, and you let him bother you and annoy you for the year, that makes you not too smart.
I moved out of the state to get
Very
away from him.
good. That's exactly what you should do.
She got a free trailer. That's what happened.
I paid plenty for that trailer.
She got a heck of a ride off of me.
I have also done many, many things to contribute towards his welfare growing up.
My mother was there, you know. I mean, she wasn't doing nothing to help him.
It breaks my heart.
Don't trust no family member.
And now the next.
This is Fry Leach. Step forward, please.
24-year-old Brandy Evans is suing Kathleen Fry and her ex-boyfriend Patrick Leach for damage to her car. Brandy claims Patrick was riding his bike when he crashed into her parked vehicle.
Ms. Fry, are you the neighbor of the plaintiff?
Not of the plaintiff, of the plaintiff's witness.
And this is your boyfriend?
Ex-boyfriend, yes.
How long has he been your ex-boyfriend?
Since about last November.
And how long was he your boyfriend?
About 18 years.
That took you a long time to decide he wasn't the right one. Huh?
Sometimes you don't think.
Was there any particular reason why you terminated the relationship?
We just weren't getting along anymore.
Did he drink a little bit?
No, he never drank.
Never?
Before we started going out, he drank, but he never drank during our relationship. I drank.
Now, you were riding a bicycle?
Yes, ma'am.
With your girlfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
Where had you been riding?
We usually rode 10 to 15 miles a night, just around our neighborhood and just around our block and so on and so forth.
And at what time of the evening did you return to the house?
It was probably between 8 and 8:30 in the evening.
So it was dark?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you always ride at night?
Yes, we did.
You have lights on your bikes?
No, we don't.
Are you supposed to?
Yes, we are.
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
Do you wear a helmet?
Yes, I do.
For what?
Safety reasons, in case somebody pulls out in front of me and
Right.
Right.
That's why you have lights on bikes if you're going to be riding at night. And so tell me what happened, Mr. Leach.
Our street was very dark. It has no street lights. I was pedaling, and her car is the color of night. It blended in, and it was parked, if I can show you on the diagram, it was parked probably a little farther back, but to me, it was illegally parked. And it was on a corner. I was pedaling, and I looked up, and next thing I know, under the tree, next thing I know, I hit the front end of the car.
Okay, so Mr. Leach, we are talking now about certain things that you can do nothing about, because as night follows day, that's science. And in science, it's going to get dark outside. So when you're driving a vehicle, what they do is when a vehicle is operating, they put lights on the car so that you can see where you're going after night falls, right? So it's not the night's fault that you hit the car.
Oh.
Now, cars can be painted in many colors. It's not the car's fault that it was painted the color of night, right?
Correct.
So it can't be the car's fault that it was that color. Now, how long do you think this big tree has been living on the corner?
I couldn't tell you.
10 years?
Since before he moved in.
Yeah.
The tree didn't move, right?
Correct.
So it can't be the tree's fault that you hit her car. And the last thing that you said was her car, you believe, was parked illegally.
True.
But the car didn't move.
Correct.
There was only one thing that was moving. Mr. Leach, that would be you.
I totally agree.
Now, Miss Evans, tell me, you were awakened to the alarm going off in your car?
No, we were watching a movie. I was over at my friend's house.
And what
It was
happened?
around 11 p.m., and I heard my alarm going off.
So the alarm did go off as a result of being hit?
Yes. So I walked out, and they weren't near my car. They were walking away from my car. And I walked down and looked at my fog light. And my fog light was broken on the ground. And I walked back up halfway to the driveway, and that's when Kathy stopped me.
Had you known her before that evening?
No.
So you never met her before?
No.
She walked up to you and said?
And said, we were riding our bikes, and my boyfriend hit your car. And I looked over at him, and he was laying on the grass with his bike.
That's not true.
And
shh, Mr. Leach. Shh, Mr. Leach, look at me.
And Kathy said she was going to run and go get her information, and that she did not want to go through the police, and that she wanted to pay cash. And she walked back over and said he had some to drink, and that here's her information to put estimates in her mailbox, and that she would get back to me. And she gave me her number. She gave me her work phone, her cell phone.
Miss Fry, did you write down your telephone number, your work number?
I gave her my business card.
What did you give her your business card for?
For the purpose of, I had walked over and explained that he had hit the car and that he was lying on the ground because he had hurt himself when the bike hit the car. And I said, I will get you the information and you can get estimates and the two of you can work it out. I brought her the information back over. I never stated that he was drinking because he wasn't. And I never stated that I would pay her cash because I am not the one that hit the car.
What do you want to say?
I was standing there and listened to her state that she would pay Brandy in cash to settle the matter.
Tell me your last name.
Curran.
How long had you been neighbors, Miss Curran?
I've lived there approximately 6 years.
Okay. Mr. Leach.
Yes, ma'am.
There is no reason why Miss Fry should take responsibility for this.
Exactly.
So if the court were going to enter a judgment, it would have to be a judgment against you.
Correct.
So that, Miss Fry, you may sit down. Thank you. Now, sir, you're there all on your own. In 10 seconds, give me your best shot as to why you're not responsible for this.
I never said I was not responsible. I hit the car. But what I am disputing is they brought over estimates for $1,400 for the car which to me was a little outrageous. We told them to get another estimate in a local place. They've done work on our cars before, and they were more reasonable. They probably given a reasonable rate. They never went there.
Mr. Leach, let me stop.
Sure.
A second. Is it that you don't like the amount of money that she's asking for because you believe it's excessive, or that you don't believe you're responsible?
The amount of money, and then we had an estimate for $1,400 and $1,600. Now it's $1,800.
Well, now she's going to show me the estimates.
I have
and the photographs.
The first estimate that I gave them that was for the $1,400. When I gave it to her, she asked me to go and get another one with their body place, and it shows it was only a month afterwards, not even a month after the accident, that I have for that quote.
Just a second. What was the name of the body shop where you wanted them to go?
Boulevard.
This is one of those from Boulevard?
Yes, and that's my third one.
Can I see it, please?
We never got that one.
We never got those.
I don't care whether you did or not. Now I have them. So am I correct? Boulevard gives you $621.72?
Mm-hmm. That was just the paint that they said. They didn't say anything about the hood. That is, I have pictures of my hood and where it's not aligned with the other side from where he fell on it. And
Your Honor, I did not fall on the hood.
I have your handlebar marks on my hood.
Well, there is damage to the hood. All right, anything you want to say?
I just, I want to know. She got an estimate from Boulevard, for just paint. Well, you know what? If to me, if I'm going to get an estimate for the body work, I'm just not going to ask for paint for the $600 and something. I'm going to say, I'm going to say, hey, it's just, I need the body work done. I don't understand that.
I went in and asked for an estimate, and that's what they gave me. I didn't ask them just to do paint.
Did you ask them for an estimate to fix it or to paint it?
To fix it. I said I needed it fixed.
The damage to this car can't be done for $600. She's got something wrong with the hood of the car that's going to have to be pulled out and painted if it's going to be done right. The $1,300 is a reasonable estimate. Okay, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,360.64. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Excused. You may step out.
They lied about saying he was drunk. I was there. We ride every night. We don't ride drunk.
That's fine. I know what she said, and I know what I heard.
Neighbors tell me that they said I was drunk, and I don't drink.
Well, yeah, they're not telling the truth.
I'm going to get a light on my bike.
And drive drunk.
Right, I'm not going to drink anymore either.
I'm just glad it's going to be taken care of.
The calendar in the matter of Massey versus Moulton. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Mr. Massey, you and the defendant share a common driveway. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And according to your complaint, on the 30th of October, you were watching out the window of your house, and you saw the defendant backing out of her driveway. Your car was parked there, and she hit your car with the mirror of her car. Is that right?
That's correct.
What time of the day was this?
4 in the afternoon.
And you and the defendant have had difficulties in the past. Is that right?
That's correct.
How long have you lived in your house?
I purchased my house in May of 2001.
And how long have you lived there?
1989.
What was the problem, Mr. Massey?
When I purchased my house in May of 2001, the lady I purchased my house from warned me that they
Don't
had...
tell me what they warned you. That's hearsay.
Yes, ma'am. The problem, Your Honor, before my truck was hit, 5 weeks in a row, when I came home from work, my trash can was knocked over. I came home one day, I picked my trash can up. My neighbor, Mrs. Moulton, came home and turned my trash can over again. I asked her why she turned my trash can over for the last 5 weeks. She said it was in her way. On Sunday, October the 28th, I had been outside in the front working on a home project. The defendant came home. We had a few words.
What did you say to her, and what did she say to you?
The defendant came home that day, and she said that I had some chairs on the fence. She asked me to move them. I went around back. I moved the chairs off the fence. When I came back, I was standing and looking out of the front door. My neighbor, Mrs. Moulton, got in her car. She was backing out. She got close to my truck. She didn't hit it. She pulled forward.
Well, that's the same day. You said that was on the 28th or the 30th?
On the 30th.
And Ms. Moulton, you say you did not do that?
Yes, that is correct.
But Mr. Massey, you say you have a video that shows that she did?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
I'd like to see it. Did you know he had a video, Ms. Moulton?
From the officer indicated he had a video that around about 9:30 when the officer came to my home.
That is you getting into your car, is it not, Ms. Moulton?
Yes, it is.
Are you watching that very carefully, Byrd?
Yes, I am.
Did you see the car hit it?
I really can't say, Judge.
Could we do it again, please?
I can show you, Your Honor, right when the car hit.
I would like you to do that, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Right here, Your Honor, she hits my truck. Her mirror, you can see her mirror go under my mirror, and it hits my truck. I have some pictures of the damage of her car.
Can I see it, please?
And the damage of my car.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, sir. This is an existing scratch on my truck. These are pictures of the damage that she done to my car. And this is where her mirror scraped my truck.
Because this line is an existing scratch already on his truck, and the rest is where that line.
This line.
That line up there is where.
Put on her mirror.
Right.
Show the camera, please. Miss Moten, what I don't understand is, why did you pull forward again? You were clear of his car.
Oh, I put forward because I was trying to make sure I didn't hit his vehicle.
Miss Moten, you were practically clear of his vehicle, and then you pulled forward and you steered right into it.
But that's what it looked like. But
well, that's what it
way,
looked like.
right.
My eyes weren't deceiving me. That's what it looked like.
Judge Judy, when I pulled, we have parking spaces that are pretty tight over there where I am. So when I pulled out, I was pulling out and doing the best that I could to prevent from hitting his vehicle. I still say that I did not strike his vehicle.
You did.
Okay.
You did. But I don't understand why you were pulling out and you were practically clear of it.
Well,
and then you pulled back. You pulled forward again. And you came that close to his car the second time. I don't understand that.
Well, I understand it because I was pulling out from my observation of it as far as me backing out. I was backing out to keep from, because you, from looking at the video.
Play that again for me, please. I want to look at it
please,
one
from
more
looking
time.
at
Is that a possibility?
Yeah, looking at the video, it does look that way, but as far as the way
the video doesn't lie, Miss Moten.
Well, I'm not saying the video is lying. I'm just saying I didn't strike his vehicle. I didn't do that.
You did.
See, my damage was on my car. That damage she said I put has been there on my vehicle.
Okay, now, you're clear.
From that, it looks clear, but...
You were clear the first time you pulled out. You were clear. Then you come back and you go right into his car.
Well, it looks like I went into his car, but...
Well, it looks exactly like you went into his car, madam, and that's what you did. Can I please see the estimate to have it fixed?
Yes, ma'am. I have two estimates, Your Honor.
Well, how much was the cheapest estimate?
$627, if I'm not mistaken. And I have a rental car reimbursement, and it should be in that stack also.
Well, I'm not paying you for a rental car, sir. Are you his wife?
Girlfriend.
Girlfriend. Do you live together?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a car?
Yes, ma'am.
Drive him around for a day while he has this car fixed. Listen, life is very, very short. You're going to be neighbors for a while. I'm going to suggest that you could either be miserable for the next 20 years or happy for the next 20 years. Unfortunately, you have a very tight driveway. Maybe you can get together and say, listen, I'm going to go into my lawn a little bit and take another foot, make cement out of it, and on the other side we'll do the same thing so we have a little bit more latitude getting in and out. Can you do that?
Well, it has already been done as far as on his side. The previous owners did do that.
Well, what about on your
owners.
Just say, well, what about on your side?
Well, I can't do anything because I'm between two people. I have someone to my left and someone to my right.
Your Honor, if I may, okay. The problem that we've had with her is she chooses to park directly beside our car when she has enough room to park further over in her space.
Well, what I'm telling you is you can either have continued problems with each other or you can try to resolve it. Do you work?
Yes, I do.
What kind of work do you do?
Teacher assistant.
And you?
Work for the military, ma'am.
So what I'm going to suggest is that you devote more energy to the work that you do and less negative energy to the 2 or 3 inches that it would take to alleviate this problem.
Thank you very much.
No. It's not his problem. You hit his car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I am the boss.
Claims next-door neighbor Sandra Moten damaged his SUV when she backed out of her driveway.
Madam, you hit his car.
I don't agree with that, but I
don't care whether... Put your hands down, sir. I don't care whether you agree or not.
I understand.
That's why you're here. You're
That's
here.
right.
I have a video, so what you want me to say is he was mistaken, the pictures are mistaken, and the video is mistaken, and you're right. And I'm telling you that you hit his car, and maybe if you were a little more flexible, maybe both of you, you could avoid a situation that makes it unpleasant every day. A little more flexible. Pull your car over a little bit more so that you don't have to be right next to each other. And if you don't want to do that, then what's going to happen is you're going to continue to be miserable. I, on the other hand, am not going to be miserable. You have your judgment, sir, in the amount of $627. If she hits your car again, you're going to get another judgment against her. I assume that you both have other things to do to keep yourself busy. What do you want?
I was in an accident, and that particular damage was
you
done
hit
on here.
his car. I saw it with my own eyes.
Well, I disagree, Judge
I
Sheindlin.
don't care
I
whether you
understand
disagree or not. You pulled out of your driveway. You were clear of his car. You pulled back into your driveway.
But I'm saying to you,
your car veered right into his.
What I'm saying to you, Judge
listen, I'm not interested in what you're saying to me,
damage
madam.
was on my car prior to
listen
him
to me.
stating that.
I don't
That's
hear
what
a
I'm
word
saying
that
to
you're
you.
saying because when
I
I
understand
speak,
that.
I don't hear people that are trying to
understand
talk
that.
over me.
I'm not trying
because
to.
I am the boss here.
I
You may be
understand
the
that.
boss in your schoolroom. I am the boss here. And if you're going to be thick like this table, then you're going to spend the next 10 years while they're living next door to you being unhappy. And what I'm saying to you is, move your car over. That's all. Step out.
Thank you, Mrs.
Parties
Sheila.
are excused. You may step out. Mrs. Melton, step forward, please.
28-year-old Monique Simmons is suing her ex-boyfriend, Bruce Melton, for loans she made him to pay his rent and 2 bail bonds.
Ms. Simmons, the defendant is your former boyfriend, according to your complaint a while ago, over a year ago. You made him a series of loans.
Correct.
And you want your money back.
Correct.
Mr. Melton says that you did, in fact, give him money. You gave him money for rent once. You bailed him out of jail a couple of times. But that's what you did because you were in a relationship. There was never any discussion of paying you back. Those were gifts. Is that right, Mr. Melton?
Yes, ma'am.
When was the first time, Mr. Melton, that Ms. Simmons gave you money?
Actually, when I moved into my apartment, she helped buy stuff for my apartment, like bath, shower tiles, and some dishes and things. So
well, that was very nice of her.
Yeah.
Those were clearly gifts because she's not even talking about that in her
Right.
complaint. She's talking about cash money.
Well, she paid my rent for me
When did she pay your rent for you?
around August, I believe.
And why did Miss Simmons have to pay your rent?
She didn't have to pay anything, Your Honor. She did that on her own accord.
Well, tell me how that happened, Mr. Melton.
Because I had moved my apartment. I was drawing unemployment at the time, and then my unemployment ran out, and I was searching for a job. I'm a student at Eastern University, and I was going to school.
How old are you?
I'm 38.
What are you studying?
Actually, it's called Board of Trustees Bachelor's.
You mean when you graduate, you go on a board?
No, Your Honor, that's what the degree is called, a Board of Trustees Bachelor's degree.
I never heard of that. Mr. Melton, why don't you try to explain to me what that is?
It's a continuing education degree for students.
Do you actually go to school? Or is
Yes,
it
I do, Your Honor.
You go to a classroom?
I go to
It's not
class.
a virtual classroom.
No, ma'am, Your Honor. I go to class on the weekends.
And how do you support yourself otherwise?
Well, at the present, I'm working, Your Honor. I'm a chef.
What were you doing in August of 2004?
I was getting unemployment until it ran out.
It usually takes about a year before it runs out.
No, ma'am, Your Honor. In Champaign, it takes 6 months.
When did you move into your apartment, sir?
May of 2004.
So you moved into your apartment, sir, while you were on unemployment?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
Well, that seems like a foolhardy thing to do, sir.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll explain, Your Honor. I was married, and me and my wife got separated. So I left her the house and moved out into the apartment.
All right, you moved in May, and you were still collecting unemployment.
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
Were you halfway into your unemployment, sir?
I got my unemployment in May. It started coming in May.
Well, then you still had your unemployment in August, when you took money for her for rent.
Your Honor, I didn't take anything from her. What she did on her own. I never
Just
asked her to
listen.
do it.
I didn't ask you that, sir. I said in August you were still collecting unemployment and you took money from her for rent. Now, whether it was a loan or a gift, my words were accurate, sir. I did not go to school on weekends. You took money for rent at a time when you were still collecting unemployment.
August, I was getting unemployment, yes.
There we go. That was for your benefit.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Tell me about August of 2004 when you paid his rent.
Well,
how much did you pay?
$290. And then in September, he again asked me to loan him money for the full amount, and that was $475.
Now, you are the mother of 3 children.
Correct.
What do you do for a living?
Right now, I'm working at a
What were you
factory.
doing in August of 2004?
I was a student.
And who was supporting you?
I was receiving a fellowship from school.
Where's the father of your 3 children?
He's still in town.
Does he support the children?
Yes.
They're still married, Your Honor.
Did I ask you for any editorializing?
No, I just wanted to share that statement.
Don't share anything with me unless I ask you a question, Mr. Melton. So between your fellowship and the child support you receive, you gave him money for September's rent and for half of August's rent.
Correct.
Not Swift.
I know that now.
Now, when was the next time you gave him money?
Actually, in August, I loaned him money to pay 3 loans that he had.
You have checks for that?
Yes.
How much was it?
One was for $115, one was for $113, and one was for $63.
Those amounts sound familiar to you, Mr. Melton. She's got checks.
She has checks, but the thing is, I never asked her to pay
I didn't ask whether
anything.
you asked her. I'm just asking you whether that was paid on your behalf.
Well, it was a gift on her behalf.
Listen to me. I didn't ask you that.
Okay.
Was the money paid on your behalf?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Now, you're divorced?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
You weren't divorced in August of 2004.
And neither was she.
I didn't ask you that. Don't be a wise mouth,
I'm
sir.
not trying to be. I
Then
apologize.
just answer my question. Then we'll get along just fine.
Okay. Your
I don't find you particularly attractive, sir. Maybe she did, I don't.
Okay.
You get it.
I hear you, Your Honor.
Good. This is not going to be a happy time for you, Mr. Melton. I suggest that you stop laughing. How many children do you have?
I have 3, Your Honor.
Now, do you give them any money?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
How much money do you give them?
Well, I
Well
have
is
to pay
not an
child
answer.
support now, Your Honor, and it's
What?
$365 a month.
Do you pay it?
Yes, I do.
No. You don't pay it, Mr. Melton, but let's suppose you did pay it. Let's say you did pay it. And let's say you found out that your ex-wife had a boyfriend, and she gave her boyfriend $365 a month. How would you feel about that?
First of all...
No. Not first of all, second of all, third of all. I just gave you a storyline. You pay your ex-wife for your support of your 3 children the paltry sum, if you pay it, of $365 a month, and somebody tells you, and you confirm, that your wife has a boyfriend, and she gives the boyfriend $365 a month. And my question to you, Mr. Melton, is, how would you feel about that?
As long as it ain't my money, I don't care what she do.
It was your money.
Well, I don't know if it was mine or not. As long as my kids have what they need, it does not matter to me because I have no relationship with her.
Fine. Mrs. Melton out there, listen carefully. You can do whatever you want with Mr. Melton's money.
She knows that.
He doesn't care because he probably doesn't pay you. But when he starts paying you, you can do whatever you want with the money. Now, you get a financial aid check, sir?
Yes, I do.
You're 38 years old.
Yes, I am.
And you're going to be a trustee when you grow up. Is that right?
I'm going to be a trustee. I'm going to be on the board of trustees.
Now, you paid bail for him. What kind of charge?
DUI and driving under revoked license.
And what month was that in?
October of 2004.
That's your problem. Because if you're dumb enough to give him all this money in August, then he calls you and says, I'm in jail, come and bail me out, that's your problem.
Well, he told me
Now, just to say, I don't care what he told you. That's your problem. You're a student, got 3 children, so you should be smarter. Put your hand down. Then you had him arrested for domestic violence, correct?
Correct.
And you bailed him out again.
Correct.
That's your problem. Stupid does not get rewarded.
I just need to say one thing, Your Honor, if it's possible.
Are you going to pay me a compliment, Mr. Melton?
I think you are one of the finest judges on the land. Now, may I say
You
something?
are the man, sir. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,056. That's all.
Pardons are excused. You may step out.
Well, I was arrested actually twice for domestic battery, and both incidents I was found not guilty.
One time it was his birthday and he'd been out drinking and he just became violent.
She said that I pushed her once and I slapped her the second time.
I'm not bitter at all. I just wanted the money that was rightfully mine.
Number 427 on the calendar in the matter of Hiles versus Moye.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Hiles, the defendant was a boyfriend of yours, and you lived together for a period of time?
Correct.
It is your claim that some time ago, during an argument, he assaulted you, choked you, and you almost passed out. You want to be compensated for that.
Correct.
And then when you separated, you claim that he came back into the house and destroyed some of your property, including some fish, by pouring bleach into the tank.
Yes, ma'am.
And at some other time, you opened up a cell phone account for him, got him a cell phone, your name, you're responsible for the bill, and he racked up a bill of $1,500. Mr. Moy says that he did not come into your house and destroy any property.
Correct.
Mr. Moy says that he never assaulted you.
Correct.
Mr. Moy said whatever the phone bill was that he had, he took care of.
Correct.
And that if you have a $1,500 cell phone bill, it's probably from your own use because you turned off his account, or his account was
Correct.
turned off. However, Mr. Moy says that you were sort of annoyed that this relationship terminated and that you poured water in his gas tank, destroying his engine.
Incorrect.
That's what he said. And he says he has a witness to that.
Yes.
So, you lived together blissfully until when?
He had gone to jail for 90 days, gun charge. And after he returned, he
Can I have the
basically...
date?
The date that he went to jail?
The date that you stopped living together.
We stopped living together on July 6th, the day I filed my restraining order.
And when did he get out of jail?
He got out of jail in January of '05.
What happened on the 6th of July? Because I assume that that's the date that you claim that he assaulted you.
There's prior times before that, but I was scared, didn't know what to do. You know, Todd here at times would tell me, you got to get out of the relationship. He's hurting you. It's going to get ugly, you know. And on the 6th, I had pulled up to our apartment complex. He was at the pool with 2 other women, and his cousin as well had a pair of my sweatpants on that he had cut to let him go to the pool. So I was upset. I then took a bottle of water, acted as if I was putting water into his gas tank to get his attention, and then I left, went to the courthouse, and got a restraining order.
Just a second. I want you to say that to me again. You came home.
Uh-huh.
You... Follow directions very well, Mr. Moy. You came home, you drove up, and you found that he was out at the pool with 2 other gals.
Yes, ma'am.
And his cousin.
Yes, ma'am.
Cousin is a male.
Yes, ma'am.
He had taken a pair of your shorts and cut them.
Yes. So his cousin could go swimming with him.
And you got very angry with that?
Of course.
Go ahead. Let me hear what happened.
Yeah, and my mom was in the car with me. I took the bottle of water out, and she's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm going to get his attention is what I'm doing. So I went over to his car that was parked where he could see it perfectly. I pulled the license plate down, acted as if I was doing it, got his attention. He came running. I got in the car, and I said, I'm done. And I went and got a restraining order that day.
What did you get a restraining order for?
Because he's crazy.
Listen to me, Miss Hiles. Sounds to me like he should have gotten a restraining order against you.
No.
Yes. Yes. You at least made it appear as if you were vandalizing his car. So far, the only thing that he did, which was a little tacky and perhaps stupid, if I believe you, was to cut your shorts so that his cousin could go swimming. He neither assaulted, menaced, threatened, or harassed you. You, however, did that to him. So it's the height of lunacy for you to go to the police station to seek a restraining order. What did you put in the restraining order? That he cut your shorts?
No, I put the restraining order that he's choked me numerous times and done different things that's outrageous.
Just put your hand down. Well, when did you say that he did this?
The last time he did it before I got the restraining order was the day before my birthday, June 28th, 2005.
Just a second. June 28th. So June 28th, you did nothing?
No.
June 29th,
I was scared.
I'm speaking.
Okay.
You were with your mother in a car. Don't give me baloney. You were with your mother in a car. You're scared of him? You don't go back to the pool. June 28th, you did nothing. 29th, you did nothing. 30th, you did nothing. 1st of July, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. The only time that you got really nervous was when you saw him out with 2 other girls at the pool and his cousin in your shorts.
Right.
Well, that's outrageous. Outrageous.
Okay.
So let's leave the assault, because I'm not interested in the assault.
Okay.
If you were legitimately frightened of him, you wouldn't have tried to get his attention by taking a bottle of water and making believe that you were putting water in his gas tank. You don't do that if you're legitimately afraid of somebody, because you know that that's going to really make them angry, unless you're an idiot. So let's move on. There are women and men who legitimately suffer from domestic violence, for whom the laws of domestic violence were made. You, madam, are not one of them. Because if you were one of them, you wouldn't have taken a bottle of water and poured it in his gas tank.
I did
or
it
made
for it.
believe gas tank to get his attention. You would have stayed in the car with your mother and gotten as far away as you possibly could. So let's leave the assault, because it's an embarrassment for all the women that are, in fact, in situations that they can't extricate themselves from easily. You can. Now let's get to the point in your tale where you say he entered the apartment and he destroyed your property. When was that?
The day after I filed the restraining order on July 6th, July 7th, that's when I made my police report. He damaged my TV, VCR, DVD player, slashed my leather coat, bleached my 3 betta fish along with bleaching my carpet, unplugged my refrigerator so all my food would be bad, stole my unemployment check out of the mailbox, had it cashed, and that's about it.
You have a police report?
Oh, yeah, got it all.
And what proof do you have that he did that?
Police reports.
No,
He's
what
the only
proof?
person that has a key.
You got a lot of men coming over your house.
Listen to me. One more word and you're out of here. Do you understand? No. Listen to me. Hey.
Yeah.
One more word and you're out of here.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Accusing ex-boyfriend Corey Moyer of destroying her personal property, killing her tropical fish, and assaulting her on several occasions.
All right, so the timeline is a little different than you indicated. The officer came to your house on the 12th of July, and you don't know when somebody came into your apartment because you were away for the weekend. According to the police report, Mr. Moy had not lived with you for approximately 2 months, but came back and forth, and sometimes you let him in and sometimes you didn't. When you came back from the weekend trip is when you found all this damage to the apartment,
Right.
and you made this report.
I had to leave town because I have another police report. I had harassment, him calling me, telling me he was going to kill me. And then in return, when I felt like I was safe to come back, I went and picked up Todd, my apartment with me, and he's the one that found everything, you know, like we couldn't figure out. He put water damage in my TV, my VCR, my DVD player. My food was all spoiled. I mean, he took bleach and just sprinkled it.
When did you leave on your trip?
After I filed the police report on the 6th. I was scared. I couldn't go to my parents' house.
Listen to what I'm saying to you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Listen to what I'm saying to you. A woman who is frightened of being assaulted does not try to get her boyfriend's attention because he's out swimming with 2 other women by making believe she's going to destroy his car. That's not what somebody does when they are truly afraid for their well-being. Sometimes they may stay in a relationship that's not smart, but they don't instigate a fight.
Right.
So I do not believe you. Do you understand?
Okay.
Good. Let's get over that. You were angry when you pulled up and saw him, according to you,
Right.
at the swimming pool with 2 other women. You were angry.
Mm-hmm.
That had nothing to do with being in fear. Now, other than the fact that, according to you, he was the only person who had a key to your apartment, do you have any other proof that he did any of this damage?
He admitted to it.
To whom?
To my father.
Where is he, your father?
At work.
Well, that doesn't help me. This is a court.
Well,
So you have no proof. Okay, now, when do you allege that she poured water in your gas tank?
Like July,
If you don't know, you're allowed to say, I don't know. Then I'll try to jog your memory. Do you understand? You know, I know that that's a difficult thing for you to say, I don't know, because you probably think you know everything.
pretty much.
Pretty much. That is the least accurate thing that you could possibly say to me. Now, if you say to me, I know nothing, that I would believe. But the fact that you think you know everything, that would mean that you're really successful. Do you think you're really successful?
No.
Right. Now, let's get to it, sir. On what date do you claim she put water in your gas tank?
Sometime in July.
Was it before or after she alleged that you vandalized her apartment?
Before.
So she put water in your gas tank before. You see this problem that you have over here? Now I'm going to address myself to her. Now you can stand up. Name?
Nicole Stevenson.
Miss Stevenson, I assume that you are Mr. Moy's witness to this incident where she poured water in his gas tank?
Yes, I am.
When was that?
That was before the incident she claimed that Corey broke into her apartment.
Tell me about it.
That particular day, my boyfriend and Corey was going down to the swimming pool. Of course, they were being men. They do what men do. First of all, we're not married. So if they cheat on you, I'm sorry?
I hardly understood anything that you said after swimming pool.
Oh, I talk so fast. I'm sorry. Let me
Well,
slow
listen
down
to
for
me. You talk so fast, and I'm getting older.
Oh, okay.
So one of us is going to have to modify the way we do business.
Okay.
Since I can't do anything about my advanced age, you're going to have to slow down.
Okay.
Do I make myself
No
clear?
problem.
Good. Now, you were hanging out at the swimming pool.
Uh-huh. My boyfriend.
Your Honor.
Don't speak. Your boyfriend is who?
My boyfriend is his cousin.
Oh, the one who needed the shorts.
The one that needed the shorts.
The one who
right.
needed the
one
shorts.
that needed shorts, correct.
Go ahead. So you were hanging out at the pool.
We were hanging out at the pool that particular day. They were flirting with, pulled up with her mom in the car. She freaks out. She started calling, you know, saying racist little names with the N-word. You doing this, you cheating on me, woo, 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 this, that, and the other, how dare you? And then her mom was sitting right next to her in her car. And Michelle claimed she was so scared, but she got out the court amped up.
Just tell me what you saw.
I'm telling you what I saw. I'm telling you, I see Michelle outside the car amped up with her mom
Could
sitting
you
in the
tell me
car.
what amped up means?
Amped up meaning she's like, she's enraged basically. So that time she has a water bottle in her hand. She goes around to his gas tank. Like, she's not acting like she's pouring water. She's pouring water in her car because there's water on the ground.
Did you have the car fixed, sir?
No, it's still in the shop. I have to finish paying for it.
What year car is it?
It's an 88 Monte Carlo with a 350 Edelbrock intake super racing engine, basically. It's the engine. It's not the body of the car. It's the engine itself, which is high performing with a positive rear end traction, shift kit, all that stuff that, you know.
Don't speak.
And that's a high-performance shop who works on cars specifically with them type of motors. I can't take it to any other
So what
place.
you're telling me, Mr. Moy, is that this is a car that's very dear to you,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That this is your pet project, this car.
Yes.
That you've worked on the car and put a lot of money into it.
Yes.
And you were at the pool that day and saw her pour water in your gas tank, destroying the engine to this machine that you really love, right?
Yes.
And now you want me to believe, after you saw her do that, you did nothing to her property. Look at me.
No. I got arrested for the incident that she claimed that I broke on her apartment and was released on questioning because they found no evidence.
I don't care whether they found no evidence. This is a civil proceeding. Mr. Moy, listen to me.
I understand.
Yeah, you understand? Let me tell you what doesn't make sense, sir. I believe that she poured water in your gas tank. I believe she did that. Put your hand down. What doesn't make sense is that you would do nothing. So it doesn't make sense, sir, that it was anybody other than you. Now, the fact that the police couldn't arrest you for it because there was no proof, that's unfortunate. I would have arrested her for vandalizing your car. Sounds to me like you two folks really deserve each other.
No.
Okay. Now, let us move on to the cell phone, please.
I was going to say I had the Kelly Blue Book on his car. It's worth nothing. And
I don't
even
care
in-
if it's worth nothing.
Okay.
It's worth something to him. Shh. Now sit down. I told you. Did I let you speak at the appropriate time?
Yes, you did.
Did I take your evidence?
Are you asking me questions?
Did I take your... No, I ask questions. You give me a yes or no
Right.
answer unless I want you to expand.
Okay.
Now, you don't speak. This is not a participation game.
I know it's not.
Good, good. Then sit there and be quiet. Now, you clearly knew that this car was important to him. Clearly, because you said that was a good way of getting his attention. You were so annoyed that he was out there flirting with a couple of women. You wanted to get his attention, and the way to do that was with this car. So you knew it had value to him. So it's not without value. It had value to him. Let's get to the cell phone.
May I say something, though?
Sure.
Nicole was not there at the pool.
I don't care if she was there or not. You poured water in his gas tank. You want to know why I know that?
Yeah.
Because you were so angry, it doesn't make sense for you to get out of the car with a water bottle, go over to the gas tank, open it up, and make believe you were pouring water in the gas tank. That doesn't make sense. And as a result, he went up and destroyed your property, which is exactly what he did.
Excuse me.
Speak not, unless I speak to you. Now, the cell phone.
Yes, ma'am. We had a... There was singular. When we got together, he always wanted my phone, so I said, you know, let's just get a little family plan. I'll get you a phone. And that was his job. I paid rent. I paid bills. He paid a cell phone bill, okay, for both of us. In turn, on July 6th, when I got the restraining order, I called Singular, had his phone disconnected because I wanted no ties with him whatsoever. And the next bill I get, it's $1,200 from him downloading ringtones, sending messages, calling Japan, who knows. I mean, it was outrageous, and I couldn't pay the bill. I'm paying on it now. Granted, I made phone calls too, but not $1,200 worth.
Well, how do you expect a court to figure out who made what call?
I don't expect you to figure it out.
You're supposed to be smart.
I am
You're living with somebody, according to the report that you gave to the police, you hadn't been living with him in 2 months. So you shut off his phone 2 months before. You chose not to do that.
So he could
if
come
you're not
choke
living,
me.
If you're not living together as a couple, and if you're responsible for the bill, it seemed to me, you terminate the service and let him get his own cell phone. Listen, it's over. You are two dysfunctional people who clearly don't belong together, and you're not together. You did a lot of damage to his car. You did a lot of damage to your apartment. If you think that I'm going to apportion how much damage he did to your apartment as opposed to how much damage you did to his car, I have absolutely no intention of doing that.
Well, I still have more.
You have more?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have more here, honey.
Okay.
The case is dismissed. That is your counterclaim. That's all.
Please excuse you, Miss Step out.
What I feel about it was some bull. That's how I feel.
That's what happens when you mess with somebody crazy.
Michelle, you know exactly what you did to Corey's court.
I mean, he's at the pool with other women.
You just can't accept the fact that he doesn't want you anymore. Move.
90 on the calendar in the matter of Fayed versus Gables. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
What kind of a puppy did you get, Miss Fayed?
Neath is a Riesen Schnauzer, which is German for giant Schnauzer.
They're cute. You have a picture?
I do.
I'd like to see it, please. How many people are in your family?
6, including both dogs.
Who else lives at home?
In dog?
No, not in dog and people.
My husband, my 2 daughters, And myself, and also another dog.
What kind of dog is it?
Another Raisin Schnauzer.
They get to be pretty big, don't they? About
Yes, they
70
do.
pounds?
Anywhere between 83 and 125 pounds.
Big dogs.
Yes.
I gather this one needed some puppy training because according to your complaint, you found the defendant in an advertisement.
Yes.
And she was a puppy trainer. She was going to housebreak your dog.
Yes.
Did I read correctly that your husband had had an accident in the house?
True. He slipped and fell in a puddle of the puppy's urine, fell down the stairs and broke his ankle.
So he was not happy with the puppy?
No, and I had to find somewhere to board her immediately and train her. He went to live in a hotel until that was done.
Is he home now?
Yes.
He's home. Well, he made a statement. He said, until this dog gets trained, you can reach me at room service.
Yes.
Very interesting. I love it. Anyway, he brought the dog to her establishment, or she came to pick the dog up?
I called her on July 25th because I found her ad, and her ad advertised very quality care.
Okay, let me see the ad, please.
Quality, unique care.
Okay. January 25th, 2005, she came to pick up the dog?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How much did she charge?
$1,800.
For how long a period of time?
21-day program.
Now, when she came, according to what I read, she advised you that while she took the dog right away because hubby wasn't coming out of the hotel until this dog was out of the house.
Correct.
She was going away, so you were going to have to pick up the dog in a day or two.
2 days.
You have a copy of the check?
Yes, ma'am.
Like to see it, please? You went and picked up the dog 2 days later?
And when I arrived, I was shocked to find not a kennel, but a condo. A condo where she had many dogs on this tiny back porch. Here, I've got a picture of this as well.
I'd like to see it.
Not
in
a
any
licensed
event, in any event, what you want is you want your money back.
I just want a refund on the day she didn't service the dog.
Okay. You don't mind giving her a couple of $100s, but you'd like $1,600 back.
15. Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it. What you're telling me is in this little area that's fenced off in the back here.
And that's actually, she added a new fence. When I picked up my dog, there was only half of a fence there. It was in back.
How many dogs were there?
She had 3 very large Australian Shepherds. She apparently had socialized Myneth with another dog. So that means there was 5 there at one time.
Okay.
In that tiny condo.
Can I see a copy of the contract that you signed?
There was no contract.
We did not sign a contract. We did not sign a contract at that time because I was unprepared the day that I went to her house, not realizing that I'd be taking the dog home that very day.
Okay. How many days did you keep the dog?
I believe she was with me for about 2.5 days.
What kind of association is the association?
The membership is open to anyone who is a professional dog trainer, and where the membership is about...
Listen to me. You're giving me a lot of gobbledygook here.
No, sorry.
Yeah, that's a lot of gobbledygook. Does somebody come out, for a member of the Association of Pet Dog Trainers, does somebody come out and inspect your property?
No, and that has nothing to do with the kennel.
Just a second. Is there any required mandatory training that you have before you become a member of the association?
No.
Other than paying dues, is there anything that is required of you to do?
No.
Fine. You didn't like what you saw, and you took your dog out.
Yes.
And then my question is, why didn't you give her back some of her money?
Because I didn't believe there was any basis for her complaint. There's no reason that I cannot bring a dog into my home. I didn't think
You're
of it
absolutely
as
right.
Right. And
but you don't
train.
have a contract with her. So what you're really doing is she prepaid for services. You do not have a contract that says that once she pays this money, it's a no refund policy because she will be rejecting other dogs in order to take her dog.
Right.
That wasn't the case here. If you were able to demonstrate to me that by taking her dog into your establishment, you turned away other business, and therefore you lost money, and you shouldn't be punished, I would say to you, well, how much business did you lose? But you didn't lose any.
How do you know that?
Because you told her she was going to have to pick up her dog in 2 days because you were going out of town.
I had already blocked out
Listen
a
to me.
3-week period.
Listen to me. You already told her you were going to have to go out of town. So the likelihood of you accepting another dog at the same time that she brought, I'm speaking, that she brought you yours is de minimis. And if you told me that you turned away other business, I wouldn't believe you. That's how I know. Because it doesn't make sense. So you have to give her back some money. Now, that being said, don't pay people in advance for services that they didn't render to you. You say, it's very nice that I see your ad in the Yellow Pages. And what's the name of the guy who advertises for the Yellow Pages? James Earl Jones?
It's Verizon, but okay.
Whatever. Somebody advertises for, no, that's the girl. What's her name? Catherine Zeta-Jones, Verizon. They don't look anything alike.
Oh, that's T-Mobile.
Whatever. This is not a guarantee that somebody is top-notch.
I learned. I know.
Excuse me.
This is just
this is not a character.
This is not
reference.
This is not a guarantee. The Yellow Page advertisement is not a guarantee that somebody is top notch. That you get when you say, "Can I see your references?"
Yeah, which
Can
she
I?
has
I'm
neglected
speaking.
to do.
I'm speaking.
She's
this
still
is not,
to this point
this
knows
is,
nothing about my philosophies,
listen to me.
my training methods.
The two of us aren't being heard, madam.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You took your dog there.
Says dog kennel owner Gina Gables owes for a refund of her fee. Pamela claims Gina is running a shoddy business.
This is not of quality service. Just as an advertisement for a nursery school for a child wouldn't be a guarantee that this is a good place for a child. What you do is you say, this is a starting point. Now let me see references. Let me call people, whatever. You were in an emergency situation. That was your problem. And you took your dog there on an emergency basis.
She picked it up.
Or she picked up your
Which
dog.
is
It doesn't
something,
make
Your
any
Honor,
difference.
I would never
It
have a
doesn't.
complete
I'm speaking. When I'm
stranger
speaking,
take my
only
dogs to
one
an
person.
unknown
Only one
location.
person speaks.
Never.
Only one
They're my
person.
children.
Only one person speaks. The dog was there for 3 days, 2.5 days, whatever. And $100 a day, if what you paid was $1,800, $100 a day seems like more than adequate compensation for having her dog there.
Exactly.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all.
That's fine. Thank you so much.
You may step out. Rarely. Step forward, please.
Stephanie Meyer is suing her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old Abraham Fraley, for his share of a Cabo San Lucas vacation and unpaid video game rentals.
All right, Miss Meyer, the defendant was a boyfriend of yours, and you claim he owes you for a series of loans, money that you laid out for him for a variety of things. Mr. Fraley says, move on. So, because I have 5 minutes in between cases, I want you to tell me exactly what you think he owes you money for.
It's for a Cabo San Lucas vacation that was taken in May.
You knew him how long when you took this vacation?
We started dating in July of 2004.
Seriously?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it wasn't serious for you, Mr. Fraley, but evidently was more serious for her. Now, tell me what expenses you had and why you think he owes you for any of those expenses.
In Abraham's and I's relationship, we split everything 50-50. And
did you live together?
No, thank goodness.
So you mean when you went out for dinner, if the bill was $10, you gave him $5, or he gave you $5?
He would treat, I would treat.
Just a minute. That's not 50-50. What you said was sometimes you paid and sometimes he paid. It was not written in stone.
No.
Then you went away on vacation. Tell me about the vacation.
A coworker, a friend of mine, has a timeshare in Cabo San Lucas, and she couldn't use it, and she offered it to me, and I thought it sounded like a great idea.
As well as her friends.
And so I asked Abe if he was interested in going. He thought it sounded like a great idea, and I also asked another couple who are friends of mine to go with us, and they thought it sounded wonderful too. And it was going to be split 50-50, and I had a verbal commitment from Abraham that that's how things were going to be taken care of.
What expenses did you pay for?
Airfare.
So you put the airline tickets on your credit card?
I did.
Let me see them.
Your Honor, may I say something real quick?
In a second.
Okay.
This is the
Everybody
document
has a turn
from
here, sir.
Expedia.
But we do it in an orderly fashion. Okay, now I'm going to you, Mr. Fraley. Cabo St. Lucas vacation.
Cabo San Lucas vacation all started when she came to me. She is a flight stewardess for an airline company, and she tried to put me on her benefits at a previous time when she invited me to go to Hawaii.
Just answer my question,
Okay.
sir.
Yes,
all
ma'am.
right? You know, try to stay focused and stay linear.
Okay. We decided to go to Cabo San Lucas. She planned the trip on her benefits. Upon receiving notice a week prior to the vacation, she purchased tickets without me knowing. She then said, well, don't worry about it. It's all taken care of. I bought tickets to ensure that we'd be there the same time our friends are there. So then I said, I cannot afford it. I cannot go. So I declined. I said, I cannot make it. She said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. If you can't afford it, you can just pay me back here and there and whatnot. So I said, okay, sure.
So based upon what you tell me, sir, there was an agreement to pay her back, but there were no fixed terms.
There was no fixed terms, no, ma'am.
Stephanie Meyer says ex-boyfriend Abraham Fraley owes for half of a Cabo San Lucas vacation.
Something rings true to me. He can travel with you as a companion through the airlines at a drastically reduced rate, but you have to go standby.
Correct.
So what you did was you purchased the tickets because you had to be there during a certain period of time.
I did purchase tickets.
Because you Don't play with me.
Because I did have to be
Because you
there.
had to be there during a certain period of time, so you couldn't use the advantage of working for the airlines because you had a limited time at the timeshare.
And it was a very high peak season for travel.
So you had to buy the tickets.
Yes.
All right.
But I discussed it with him not more than a week prior to the time that we left for the trip.
I understand that, but you had already purchased the tickets.
No, I talked to him before I purchased the tickets.
And what did he say to you?
He says, do whatever you need to do.
What was the date that you went on this trip?
It was May 28th through June 1st.
Well, you purchased the tickets a month before, not a week before.
Exactly.
How much after this Cabo St. Lucas vacation did the two of you separate?
No longer than a week after, we got back to my house, and she stayed with me for a couple days. And upon returning home from work one day, I found my room totally clean, all the drawers organized and whatnot, so I just started to going through my drawers because I have personal items that I have in current relationships and past relationships and relationships that I was in during when I was with her, and she knew well aware of it. Yeah, it's just...
Just a second. It's disgusting, isn't it? It's hard to even say,
I
right?
understand, yes.
Right? It's hard to even say.
Yes,
so what you're telling me, Mr. Fraley, is that while you were traveling with Miss Mayer, while she was staying at your house, you were involved in other relationships.
That she was aware of.
I doubt that.
She was involved in other relationships as well, receiving gifts from celebrities and stuff
I don't
like
care
that.
whether she was receiving gifts. Receiving gifts is very nice.
And you received a lot, Abraham.
Just don't.
Sorry,
speak to him. Listen to me very carefully, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Boys and girls are different. It's not just what you can see that makes them different. That's the way they are. It's in their head.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that when she went through your room, cleaned it up, and tidied up your drawers, she wasn't doing it, and then leaving you that afternoon and going and fooling around with somebody to get a present. You cannot, however, say the same for you. Got me?
Yes, ma'am.
Let us not, Mr. Fraley, play with each other.
Okay, I did get home from work, returned from work, found my room clean, and I then confronted her. Is there anything that is missing from my room or that you found that I should know about? She then denied everything, and then I called her bluff, pretty much. And
you told her to leave?
I told her to leave my
Okay, good.
stuff.
Fine. So.
And she never returned the items.
Okay. Do we have a counterclaim here? We do not. What else do you owe her for the trip to Cabo?
Nothing.
And you gave her some money.
I did give her.
How much did you give her?
I gave her a total of $250.
Good. What else does he owe you from the trip? Don't nickel and dime me, madam. I don't like it. How much does he owe you for the trip?
There's expenses that were placed on my credit card.
I don't care about that.
That was a bar tab.
Listen to me. I don't care whether you put a bar tab on your credit card or you paid for a meal. That was something that, according to you did back and forth with each. Was the timeshare?
$500 split 4 ways.
Okay. That would be $125 each. Did you discuss that with him?
I did.
Okay.
As far as the meals, he came with no money except $200 for this trip.
Those are meals that you purchased.
And he also...
That's your problem.
Okay.
You want to do that, you do that.
Okay.
Girls have to be smart. They have to think
why
with
I'm here.
not with here. When you think with here, there's always a problem. All right, you have something else here about some video rentals.
There's also actually a trip to New York that we took together.
When? Before, in September?
Yes. The end of
that was
September.
after Cabo?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I speak, please?
She didn't speak yet. She didn't tell me what you owe her for.
This is my payroll statement showing the deductions made.
What did you go away with him in September for after he left you for another girl? I'm speaking.
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you go away with him in September for?
We were still in contact and still spoke to one another because obviously we're in contact because he still owed me for the Cabo trip.
Listen to me. Okay. I don't want to hear you. You're irritating me.
Okay.
She may find you attractive. Your other girlfriend might find you attractive. I think you're a doofus.
Thank you.
He was dishonest with you. He didn't pay you what he was supposed to. And you still went away with him again in September. And I don't understand why.
Let me explain this to you.
Then do it fast. I have other things to do.
When I returned from Cabo San Lucas, 4th of July weekend, I found out that I was pregnant.
So?
We were trying to decide what we were going to do. We decided to keep the baby, and we were going to work things out. He decided that he wanted to be with me and that he had ended the relationship with the other girl.
She decided that.
So I had a trip to New York on my schedule.
You're not only a doofus, sir, you're an annoying doofus. I let you speak.
I understand.
2 women may be fighting over you. I guarantee you it's not going to be 3. Listen, you took him to New York. You bought him a plane ticket for $99. Chalk it up to your stupidity.
He traveled on my benefits.
I don't care whether he traveled on your benefits or you bought him a first-class round trip. He was dishonest with you. You knew at that time that he had another girlfriend who, according to you, was also pregnant.
Found out.
So if you're thinking with this and not this, don't come here and annoy me.
Can I explain?
I don't want to hear it anymore. You really, sometimes it's embarrassing to me that women act it's like such fools. And sometimes I would say, you know, when you act like a fool, I wouldn't want to broadcast it to the rest of the world. Anyway, he owes you $230. The rest of it, chalk up to a bad relationship and bad judgment. That's all. Take him out.
She's very sad that...
House versus y'all.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Ms. Greathouse, when did you purchase this jet ski from him?
I purchased it on June of 18th, 2005.
And how did you find it?
I was driving into town one day and...
Which town?
Into Goodlettsville.
Where is that?
The outskirts of Nashville, Tennessee. And passed his home. And the jet ski was sitting out front with a large sign on his fence. There was a phone number listed on the for sale sign. I called the number, and Mr. Yaw, of course, answered, and we had a brief conversation about it, at which time he said he was already at the lake that day. If I wanted to take it out for a test run, hook it up to the car, bring it out to the lake, which I did.
He told you to hook it up?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes.
I guess everybody in Goodlettsville.
Yes, ma'am.
They're pretty honest. You weren't worried about somebody stealing it.
No, ma'am. I had a chain that was false locked on the fence.
But you just told her to, come on, pick it up if you want to and take it out to the lake.
Yes, Your Honor.
Great. So you did that?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And how did it work?
Ran fine, ran great.
Great. You negotiated a price with him?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
What was the price?
$3,000.
She paid you the $3,000?
Yes, she did.
And you took possession of the jet ski?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you register it?
Not at that time. He told me it did not have to be registered at that particular time. He had already gotten tags for it, and they were current until about May of 2006.
Don't you need insurance for these jet skis?
I had liability insurance on it, actually, and was going to take it and have it registered to my name, but just
How
never
can you
went down
have
your road.
liability insurance if you don't have your name on the title?
I don't know, ma'am.
I don't know either. That's very interesting. Bottom line is, it came up that this jet ski was stolen, and you want your money back. Mr. Yao said that he bought it in good faith from somebody in a parking lot, and go find that person because he had no indication that it was stolen. So we'll get to that in a second. What I don't understand is, how can you have a jet ski that's not registered in your name?
I just called my insurance company. They added it on to my annual fee for the year. They never asked for a copy of the registration or anything with it, so...
Then what happened, Ms. Greathouse?
I took it in on October 21st of 2005 to have it winterized for the year. And on October 27th, I received a phone call from a Detective Billy, who at that time informed me that the jet ski was stolen.
Do you have a police report?
Yes, ma'am. I have the police report right here.
When did you purchase the jet ski, Mr. Yao?
It was the 9th of May, 2003.
And how did you find it?
I'm a contractor, and I'm at the Lowe's of Madison every morning getting materials, loading tools. A gentleman had approached me and said that he had a jet ski for sale, that his tools had been stolen at the Home Depot parking lot, that he had absolutely nothing. He needed to get tools and materials to go to work with, and he had his jet ski there and had it for sale. And I went and looked at it. We came across the price.
What was the price?
$3,500.
Okay.
I purchased the jet ski. He gave me wrote out a bill of sale, gave me a registration.
You have a copy of that registration?
I have a copy of the application. No, they took, when I went to the Tennessee Department of Wildlife Resource Management, it gives you your registration. I took the bill of sale and the registration, and they gave me a registration.
Can I see it?
That's the copy of the application for the registration. I gave the registration itself to Ms. Grayhouse upon purchase.
Your Honor, at the time he had stated he purchased the jet ski brand new for $6,000.
I also have the proof of how much I paid for it from the state of Tennessee. And also on this, it has a copy of the seller.
Okay. His last name was Franco?
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see what else you have. Is 402 a street in your town?
I do not know.
Because he doesn't fill in the city where he lives, just a street address. Didn't that look peculiar to you, sir?
That's what Tennessee gave me when I purchased the vehicle, and I had to pay taxes on that amount to get my registration. That's all they gave me.
I understand that, sir. What I'm saying to you is they didn't fill out his address. Did you have an address for him?
No, ma'am, I did not.
You ever been in trouble with the law, Mr. Yao?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
Last year.
For what?
It was a vandalism charge.
Not Mr. DeFranco.
No. Sorry.
Other than last year for vandalism, anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'm back with you, Miss Greathouse.
At the time, after October 27th, I had begun speaking off and on with Detective, who had advised me not to make any kind of contact with Michael because he wanted to try to make a case against somebody or something. He was in the business to arrest people. And if there was going to be any attempt to collect the money, he would do so at that time. So I have a copy of his case summary that he has signed.
Let me see what you have, please.
We both of us had to fax a written statement to him, and on the 9th of November, I have a copy of the statement that Michael had faxed to Detective with his statement in regards to this particular
I'd like to
event.
see.
And if you'll read the highlighted sections.
I'm going to read everything.
Okay.
I read it.
It just simply states that he has acknowledged the fact that I purchased the jet ski from him for $3,000, and he was going to make an attempt to make that right with me.
Well, how do you expect him to do that? You used the jet ski from when to when?
From June till October.
And you used the jet ski in good... You think...
He has a very reputable company in town. I had no reason to doubt anything that he had told me at that time.
I have no reason to doubt anything that he had told you either. I think that he was taken just like you were.
That's a possibility.
Oh, there's no question about it. I mean, I read the police report, and the actual police report, which you don't have underlined, says...
At the top
that I'm speaking. Says that according to their investigation, this jet ski was stolen from a truck delivery as new from Polaris in Memphis in November of 2001.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How could he have it for 2 to 3 years?
Sold a stolen jet ski by Michael Yaw. Michael claims he is also a victim.
Now, Mr. Yao did not register this for himself until May of 2003. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about a couple of years later. Somebody had it between the time that it was stolen and the time that he took possession of it, because there's nothing that he had possession of it before this.
I understand that.
You understand?
Yes,
and he paid for it.
He told me he purchased the jet ski new for $6,000,
So
and that's
what?
discrepancy.
So what? I don't think that he told you that. I think that he said that it was worth $6,000.
Miss Kathy was with me as well.
He has to have knowledge that the jet ski was stolen, or he has to have what amounts to knowledge, which means that, let's say, he bought this jet ski from a man in the parking lot for $200, and the jet ski was worth $6,000. I would impute to him the knowledge that he's getting too good a deal, and that he should know that the jet ski was stolen. Now, had you looked at jet skis before?
Not many, no.
Had you looked at any jet skis before?
Yes, ma'am.
So you know what they were worth?
Yes, ma'am.
How much was this jet ski worth?
Roughly around $3,500.
Could it have been worth $4,000?
Yeah, I guess it could.
Let's say you purchased it from him the exact way that you did, and instead of in October taking it to be winterized, you decided, you know, I've had enough jet skiing. And you sell it to Byrd. And he says, good deal, I'm going to give you $2,500 for it. It's worth $3,000. I'm going to give you $2,500. You say, fine, $100. You buy another jet ski. All of a sudden, you find out that the jet ski is stolen. He bought it. You bought it. You bought it. Do you think you have to give him back his money?
I do believe I do, because that was my error in judgment. And Michael had agreed to pay me my money. I even spoke with him after they had considered it a closed case on the incident. He agreed to pay me $1,500 between Christmas and New Year's, and another $1,500 by the end of January. I had not heard from him by the first week of January, so I called him again. And due to a problem that he had last year, he said he was not able to make payment at that time. He would pay me if he could, but he couldn't at that moment.
Did you agree to pay her for the jet ski, Mr. Yao?
I told her I felt sorry for her, and if I could do anything for her, I would, but I was not in a position to at that time. I said I felt bad. I felt bad. I felt I got taken. I felt she got taken, and the next guy in line would have been taken as well. And I told her I felt really bad about it, and I know I'm in a better financial situation than most of the people where I live, and I told her that if I could help her that I would, and I was not able to.
Are you able to now?
No, ma'am, I am not.
I think that you both got taken. I do. But I don't see any indication that he knew that this was stolen property.
Whether or not he knew that it was stolen property, it's still a purchase that I made from him in the amount of $3,000, and I feel that it is, you know, his place to make up for that. When he bought the jet ski, he wasn't out anything. He paid $3,500 for it. He got the jet ski. He got another $3,000 for it. So he's not out anything, and I still don't have a jet ski.
You are absolutely correct, except for this. The law says that in commerce, in order for things to go around in commerce, there has to be a certain finality. And unless you can establish that he had any knowledge that this was stolen property, I can't give you a judgment against him, which will permit him to go and try to find Mr. Franco to get a judgment against him, which will permit Mr. Franco to file a suit against somebody else. there has to be a certain finality. The only way that I could find that Mr. Yao owes you any responsibility, any fiscal responsibility, is if he had entered into an agreement with you to pay you any money. And you say you did not.
That's correct.
Yes, he
It says in the statement that he would do what was necessary to make it right.
That's not what he said at all.
Also, and the
No,
reason
that's
they
not what he
found
said.
out
No,
that
listen
it was
to me.
stolen is the
Miss
bin plate
Greathouse,
was popped
Miss
off.
Greathouse, that's not what it says in the statement.
Then how did, the reason they found out that it was stolen was because they apparently noticed that there was, I guess, a little VIN plate or something that was supposed to have been on the back of the jet ski. How could he have it for 2 to 3 years and not know that that VIN plate had been popped off, Your Honor? I mean, he's a man who's familiar with boating and everything else. I mean, he should have known. Where did it go? I mean,
He had a registration for the jet ski.
It also had a false VIN number.
It was registered under a
Listen to
false
me.
VIN number and a false year.
He had a registration for it.
Look at it. It says 91.
Did you have this paperwork?
Just the registration.
What did the registration say?
It said that it was a 91. He told me that there was an error that they had made when he went down and got it transferred and everything, that they would probably fix it when I went to have it re-registered.
That's really very interesting. Miss Greathouse, do you see what I mean? If you notice that it was a 1991 date.
I had no reason to doubt him. He has a very reputable company in my area. Everybody around town knows him. It says he's a very, very respectable man.
He is very respectable. He got taken just like you did. He didn't know this vehicle was stolen. I think that he
How
should.
could he not recognize that
Miss
the VIN plate
Greathouse,
was
listen
on?
to me. You can argue with me from today until tomorrow. I think that if he wants to make good on at least part of your money, he should, because if he has a business and if he's in a more stable position to make good, he will. But I cannot give you a legal judgment because I do not believe that he had any knowledge that this was stolen property that he was purchased. Dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Up and I read it and ended.
Step forward.
25-year-old Bridget Sheeter is suing her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old Wade Harsh, for a series of loans. Wade says Bridget's lawsuit is in response to their breakup.
Ms. Sheeter, the defendant was your boyfriend for a couple of years, and according to you, starting well over a year ago, you made him a series of loans. You want your money back. Mr. Harsh says that while he acknowledges that you bought certain things, which he believes were gifts, and you gave him money for certain things, it was nothing more than what boyfriends and girlfriends do for each other. And the only reason that you are suing him at this point is because the relationship is no longer a viable one. So tell me about what he needed money for and when the first loan was made.
July of 04. He asked me if I could get a phone in his name.
Don't go any further.
Oh.
When did you split up?
July of 05.
From July of 2004 until July of 2005, did he pay his own phone bill?
He paid it every month except for the 2 that I'm suing him for.
Which 2 months was that?
October, and that was when he gave me the phone back. And
October of 05?
Yes. And then January of 05, and that was because he had got in a car wreck. He was walking, got hit by a car, and he was out of work for a couple of weeks due to surgery, and he couldn't pay for it then. So I paid it, and he said he was going to pay me back.
From January of 2005, when he was in the car accident and couldn't pay his phone bill, until July of 05, when you broke up, did he make any payments?
No.
All right. And you let it slide?
Well, I told him he could pay me when he had the money.
Well, he doesn't have the money. Forget January of 05. Let's go to October of 05, after you broke up.
Yes.
Did you pay that bill?
No.
Then you owe it, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. See how easy this is? How much was that bill in October?
$63 and...
$63. What else?
February, he said his old phone was broken, and he had insurance on the phone, but he said he didn't want to get that phone because it was crappy, and I should have got him a cool flip phone. So he had asked for the money to get this new phone.
Good. So and you bought it for him?
And I bought it for him. And
Well,
I
that's-
have the receipt and that check.
That's not what we do in real life. In real life, if you have a relationship and you are with him for 6 months, in January of 05, he didn't have money enough to pay his own phone bill. So in February, you bought him a new phone? Give me a break. What's next?
Also, then in June, the new phone, he had some problems with it and wanted to get replaced. So I paid it with my credit card, and it was only $35.
Did you say you would pay her back for that?
I don't recall that.
We're not talking about a whole bunch of money. So far, we're not even to $100. So let's add that in. Make her feel better. $35. What else?
He had brought up how he wanted to start a lawn care business with him and his friend. But he had gotten into legal trouble before I'd met him and had lost his license. He had like an OWI and was in jail for a while. So he had asked me to take a loan out of a bank for him, and I made 4 payments of that. And I have the receipts and...
When did you think he was going to have the money?
After he got it back and he started with his business.
Well, what happened to the business?
He never made it.
So, you made a bad investment. Before you leave, you got to bend over around and say, thank you, thank you. This is not someone that I want to hook my star to.
Too late.
Excuse me?
Sorry, so it's too late.
Who are you?
I've been there every single time.
Don't speak to me. Just sit up. Like you were in a court. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So far, I've got $98 for the phone. What else?
A TV stand. That's what she said he wanted around December. So
You have to put a period. Say I lost a couple of dollars. It was much better than losing the next 10, 15 years of my life. Try to use it as a good lesson. Do you have a new boyfriend?
I'm working on it, yeah.
You don't have to work on it too fast. Work on yourself first, you know. Make a whole person out of yourself. Take care of yourself. If he comes along when you find somebody nice who can take care of themselves, all the better. But you don't need somebody who has to come to you every time he needs toothpaste. Got it? Mm-hmm. That's a baby, right? Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $98. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Case number 495 on the count in the matter of Langbecker versus Morgan. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Ms. Langbecker, according to your complaint, you took care of the defendant's 5-year-old son for a period of time and believe she should reimburse you for the expenses that you had while you were caring for him because she left him for a longer period of time than was originally anticipated.
Correct.
Ms. Morgan says that any money that you spent on her son was done voluntarily. You volunteered to take him for as long as she needed your assistance, and she retrieved him within a week or so, and if you spent any money, you did so gratuitously. How do you know each other?
Well, her husband has worked for us in the past off and on. He's no longer employed with us, but that's how we know Misty.
How did it come about that she left her 5-year-old with you?
Well, her husband apparently got arrested and had dropped the son off at her mother's house, I believe.
Were you together at the time?
No, ma'am.
What was your husband doing with the child?
I let my husband take my child, Andrew Morgan, because I was on the streets. I got kicked out of where I was staying.
For how long did your husband have physical custody of the child?
For about 3 weeks.
And prior to that, who was the child with?
Me.
When you say you got kicked out, what does that mean, you got kicked out?
Me and my mama had an argument. She basically told me I can leave her house.
With the grandchild?
I wasn't going to leave my son there, so I let him go with his daddy.
What was he arrested for?
Burglary and assault and battery.
Assault and battery on whom?
Me. Kidnapping.
Kidnapping of whom?
Me.
Explain that to me.
I don't know nothing about the kidnapping. They just charged him with it.
Where is he now?
He's in jail.
All right, so you were living with your mother. Were you living with your mother alone?
With me and my son.
But not your husband?
Mm-mm. Me and him were separated.
And so the argument that you had with your mother had absolutely nothing to do with the husband?
Mm-mm.
Had to do with you?
Yes, ma'am.
With what?
Over my boyfriend.
She didn't like your current boyfriend?
No, ma'am.
Said you want to deal with him, you deal with him outside my house?
Yes, ma'am.
So you left?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go with the boyfriend?
No,
What are you thinking about up here? Look here. Did you go with the boyfriend?
I didn't go with him that day.
Did you go with him the next day?
Yes, ma'am, the next day.
And what does he do?
He's a painter.
Does your mother not like him because he's got problems?
Yes, ma'am.
He's got drug problems?
Well, that's one of them.
What other kind of problems does he have?
He's got a girlfriend with a baby at home.
Why did you bring the child over to Miss Langbecker?
Because my husband went to jail. When my husband went to jail, I took my son to my mama's. And when I took my son to my mama's, I was still on the street.
When you say you were on the street?
Well, I was living here and there and yonder, at a friend's house, wherever I can go.
Go ahead.
Randy Landbaker called my friend Angie, and I called Randy Landbaker back. And Randy said that in the best interest of my son, Andrew Morgan, would be for him to be over at their house where they can take care of him, provide for him, something basically I couldn't do at the time.
Does that have a ring of truth to it?
Somewhat. Her husband contacted my husband and wanted to know if we would watch Andrew till he got out of jail. And Randy didn't feel comfortable about going and picking him up at her mother's house. So that's when he contacted a friend of hers who contacted Misty, and then she called us back. And that's when we made the arrangements to watch him for a few days while she, made some arrangements to get her things together.
From today until the next person walks on the moon, it's going to take for her to get herself together.
I'm realizing that.
How long did Andrew...
About 5 days.
Is that right?
She brought him over Saturday night, and she picked him up Thursday night.
And where did you take him?
Me and him went to my mama's house.
Are you still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Who else lives in your mother's house?
Me, my mama, my son, and my stepdad.
Are you working?
No, ma'am.
Who works in the house?
My mom and my stepdad.
And what do you do?
I stay at home with my son, clean the house. Nothing.
Tell me what you want from her, Miss Langbecker.
Well, when she had dropped him off, she dropped him off with a backpack that had 2 shirts in it, one that was too small, and a blanket. So I went out that day and I purchased some clothes for him. And the next day, when I took him to daycare, they would not let me leave him until I paid the $200 past due balance, which she neglected.
Why did you have a past due balance?
Tell me.
I did not know that there was a past due balance on that. My husband said that he had it all paid up, and when I took my son over there wasn't no time limit. Randy Landbaker told me when I got a stable place to stay that I can come pick him up. They didn't give me no time limit, no nothing.
Keep going.
Well, we were under the assumption it would be a couple of days that she would make amends with her parents. Anyway, when I did pick him up from daycare that afternoon, they insisted that I pay for the week in advance.
So you paid the $200 that was past due?
Yes, and an additional $68 for the entire week.
How much did you spend on clothes?
I spent $94, then an additional $13, and then an additional $17. But what I also did was when I realized that he was going to be staying a little bit longer, I bought an inexpensive SpongeBob bed for him to sleep in.
I assume you still have that.
I do.
Where were his clothes?
That was at my mama's house.
Why didn't you bring over the clothes?
Because Randy Landbaker told me just to go pick my son up, that they would worry about the clothes later.
Miss Morgan, that doesn't make sense.
It does make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense to me. If you worry about it later, that means the next day. So why didn't you, when you knew you were leaving your son there for a few days, get the clothes from your mother's house and bring them over to her house?
Because Randy Landbaker knows my family. He knew that my mama would not let me take my son out of that house with anything to take to their house.
So you mean you snuck him out of the house?
No, I didn't sneak him out. I just took him out.
Where was she, your mother?
She was there.
When you say you just took him out, did you tell her you were taking her over to the Landbackers?
No, I didn't tell her that.
What did you expect him to wear?
Randy Landbaker said he had it all covered.
Just a second. What did you expect your son to wear? You're his mother.
I would have went and got his clothes the next day if they wanted me to.
Well,
but when I went over there the next day,
what did you expect them to put on his back to go to school?
Like I said, I would have went over there the next day. I did go over there the next day.
Well, when you went over there the next day, other than bringing a smile, what did you bring?
I didn't bring nothing. I went over there to see my son and talk to him.
So you brought nothing?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The fact that you...
Langbecker says former friend Misty Morgan owes for child care expenses and daycare fees. Elizabeth claims Misty abandoned her son for 5 days.
Now, for a period of time, your son wasn't in your custody. He was with your husband. He was with your mother. Why weren't you working?
Because I had no transportation to get back and forth to work.
You mean if somebody bought you a car, you would be able to work?
No, I can go to work, but I have no babysitter.
When was the last time? Well, you didn't need a babysitter. Somebody else was taking care of your baby. When was the last time you worked, Miss Morgan?
About 2 years ago.
Why?
Because my husband said I didn't have to work.
Listen, the law is clear. You really don't need a contract in circumstances like this in order to recoup necessary expenses for a child. Parents are responsible to pay for the necessaries of their children. Necessaries. Not extravagances, but parents are responsible for the necessaries. Food, clothing, shelter. And in these circumstances, daycare, because she has to go to work. That is your responsibility, Miss Morgan. And the fact that you have been unwilling or unable to provide for your child doesn't mean that a stranger who provides for your child does so as a gift. It's no different if the state gave you welfare for your child, and all of a sudden you win the lottery, and the state comes in and says, we're taking that money, or a big chunk of it, because we supported your child, but that doesn't mean it was a gift, and now you got some money, you got to give it back. Well, this is a stranger to you. She's not the government necessarily, and I don't think she's necessarily a rich lady. So you have to pay her back for what she laid out for your child while you were being irresponsible. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $392. That's all. Step out.
Thank you.
Is our excuse, you may step out.
He's a great kid.
21-year-old Crystal Sanchez is suing beauty salon owner Christina Kobier for damage caused to her hair from bad highlights.
Miss Sanchez, how old are you?
21.
Is that your own hair?
Yes.
All of it?
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I ask you that question because your lawsuit is for $1,000 because you say you went to a beauty salon that is owned by the defendant and one of the stylists there ruined your hair.
Yes, that's correct.
Turn around, please. Let me look at the back of your hair. How did they ruin your hair?
It looks normal now, but I have pictures to show you how she messed up my hair. She had initially...
Just a second. You were going in there to have her put blonde highlights in your hair?
Yeah, I wanted my natural dark brown base with medium blonde highlights.
Why?
I don't know, I thought it would look nice.
No.
Because all my friends have that.
No. Don't do that again. Don't think about doing that again. I'm allowed to have an opinion about that. Look how gorgeous she is with that gorgeous hair. Why in the world would you want to put anything at your age in your hair to change that gorgeous color? What do you do for a living?
I'm a business banking representative. I handle small business accounts for business
You like
owners.
your job?
It's something for now till I find another job more within my degree.
Which is?
Economics and communications.
So you think that you're going to find something where you're going to be able to shine, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a little advice before we get into this case. Somebody like you who's got a beautiful face and beautiful hair, when you put blonde streaks in, look at me for all the wrong reasons. You want somebody to look at you and to recognize you because you're bright and you're doing good work and you're achieving something, not by putting streaks in your hair or rings in your nose or stuff in your tongue. You know what I'm talking about? You know, the people that run around with pink hair and purple hair and yellow hair, they're saying, look at me for all the wrong reasons. If you achieve something, people will recognize you. You got it?
Yeah.
Now, you went to her beauty salon to put these ridiculous blonde streaks in, and she turns you over to her technician. You must be Lulu. Lulu. So tell me what happened.
So I was running a little bit late, probably because I was stuck in traffic.
You see how fast I did what I had to do?
Yeah.
Try to follow my tempo.
Okay, sorry. And when I had initially got there, I thought that Christina was going to do my hair because that's who I scheduled the appointment with.
She made an appointment with you?
Yes.
Why did you switch her appointment to Lulu?
She got there late, and I needed to step out. I had an emergency.
What kind of an emergency did you have?
I go to church, and I'm a Christian, and somebody invited me to go see some young girl who had some problems, and I needed to go over there.
That was pretty fast thinking.
Honest true.
God should strike you down that that's a true story?
Amen.
Amen. Right. All right, so you took Lulu. That was your first mistake.
Yeah.
Because you called up and made an appointment with her.
Yeah.
Because she had a recommendation.
Yeah, she does a nice job with hair.
So you knew that, but you knew nothing about Miss Lulu.
I had called, though, and asked if Christina could still do my hair, and she stated yes. And I waited there for an hour before they even came to approach me and talk to me and let me know that she couldn't do my hair. And then she told me, oh, well, Lulu can do your hair.
That was your first mistake. That was your mistake. You say, thank you very much. I don't know a thing about Lulu. I'm leaving. You got it?
I see, but I trusted her judgment because she
Why would you trust her judgment? You didn't know it from a hole in the wall.
I trusted her judgment because she does Christina does good hair, and if
Christina does good hair, she owns the shop. Listen to me.
Yeah.
You're in business, right?
Yeah.
Christina does good hair. She owns the shop. She has a customer who's going to pay how much for these highlights?
$145.
$145. She's not letting you walk out of the store. That blouse is really blinding. She's not going to let you walk out of the store. Why would you trust her judgment?
I guess, I don't know.
You made a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, so you let Lulu do it. And what happened?
I let her know that I wanted, what I wanted, and she did my hair completely how I didn't want it. And it was just orange and ash blonde, and I specifically said that I didn't want ash blonde highlights. And she gave me a black base and not even a dark brown base. It was this base. So I don't know how, from what I asked, how she came up with putting those colors
I don't know either. When did this happen?
December 1st.
And since December 1st, all your hair has grown out, you've washed out the color, you had it done again. What happened?
I basically just bought a box of hair dye at the store, and I put black over the hair that she did for me. And then I deep conditioned my hair and just didn't wash it as often.
Let me see the pictures, please.
Okay.
Well, it is highlights. They're ugly.
If you look, you could see like bold, my hair's really thin.
Oh, awful. Lulu, you better go back to school, honey. This is not beautiful. Listen, your hair is okay. You're suing him for $1,000. That's ridiculous. But she's a dissatisfied customer. And what are you supposed to do as a business person for a dissatisfied customer? You want to look at this hair?
I would love to. When she called me saying about the problem with the hair, come and see me.
Listen,
she got her hair done on the 1st,
Listen,
And
I want you to take a look at this.
Okay.
want
She got
you-
her hair done on the first. Oh, sorry.
Don't give me the whole story. Just take
Okay.
a look at the picture. The picture says 1,000 words. Got it? Is that ugly or what?
Yeah.
It's ugly.
Is that way that she's come? Yeah.
Just a second. That's what it is. That's not somebody else's head. That's her head. It's ugly. So if somebody's dissatisfied with your work, what are you supposed to do?
Make her happy.
Either make her happy or give her her money back.
If you have a business, a person cannot just call and say, hey, I'm not happy with my hair. I
She
need to
came
see-"
back to your shop, according to your answer. So you had an opportunity to look at this.
She came back because she said the highlights were thick, too thick. And she
They
wanted
are
thinness.
too thick. They look awful.
That's what she asked. You know, let me explain
No,
what
no,
happened.
no. She's not a stupid woman. She used bad judgment by letting Lulu do her hair. But when you're a businesswoman, Ms. Cobian, and because I'm not wasting my time with this case anymore, $1,000 is out of the question because your hair did not suffer any permanent damage. It needed some restructuring for a while. Probably serves you right for touching it in the first place. I hope it taught you a good lesson.
That's what my parents said.
But first of all, she called and made an appointment with you, and you gave it to Lulu.
She had an opportunity to say no.
Listen to me. Don't answer me back. This is not a give and take. We are not on an equal footing.
Okay. Sorry about
The
that.
first thing that happens is you give her to somebody with whom she did not have an appointment. She was dissatisfied with her hair, and not only was she dissatisfied, but based on that picture, she had a good reason to be dissatisfied with her hair. Now, if I'm a customer and I'm dissatisfied with what you did in your shop to my hair, I don't want to let somebody else correct it. I want my money back. And that's what you should have given her. Period. End of discussion. Then you wouldn't have been embarrassed. Then everybody who goes to your shop isn't going to see you here in court having been told by me that you did the wrong thing. You should have said, I'm sorry, Ms. Sanchez, if you don't like your hair, I'm going to give you your money back. Go to someplace else and have it done. If you like, I'll give you some free conditioning if you like. But I want you to leave a satisfied customer. Not like that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $145. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Have been her sister before.
Case number 500 on the calendar in the matter of Gonzalez versus Gonzalez. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
What's your first name?
Michael.
Mrs. Gonzalez, this young man is your stepson.
Correct.
How long have you been married to his father?
9 years.
You're still married to his father?
Yes.
According to your complaint, several years ago, you purchased a car.
Yes.
And for whatever reason, you explained to me, you and your stepson entered into an agreement that he would take over the payments on that car, and the car would eventually, according to you, be his.
Correct.
He did, in fact, take possession of the car, used the car for a while, and made payments on the car.
Yes.
Did he pay payments to you or to the finance company?
He paid payments to me.
And he did so regularly for how long?
For a year and a half.
And then he stopped making payments and brought back the car. According to you, it was in deplorable condition. It was sold, and there's still something like a $10,000 shortfall on what was owed.
Plus the money he owes me, so yeah.
Well, whatever. I certainly don't have jurisdiction over $5,000. And Michael says that his agreement with you was that he was really like renting the car from you. And when he no longer wanted it, he returned it to you. Is that right, Michael?
It's not like I no longer wanted the car. I actually wanted to keep the car. I needed the car.
Okay, then I'm going to get to you. The car was turned over to your possession when, Michael?
Late December of 2003.
What kind of a car is it?
2003 Mustang.
How much was it purchased for new?
$25,000.
How old are you?
I'm 22.
You got to think about that, Michael. Questions are going to get harder, dear. So, a couple of years ago, you were still a teenager.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you working?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you doing?
When I first picked up the car, I was a supervisor at the Oakland airport on the ramp.
How much were the car payments every month?
$472.
How much did you give your stepmother towards the car payments every month?
About $472. If I was late, like a couple of days late or a week late, I would pay the late fee.
Now, there came a time that you stopped paying for the car.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
July of 2005, last year, I contacted my stepmother. I was late about a week and a half from the car payments. I lost my job, not the job that I was at the Oakland airport. I had another job with a temp agency. I was getting
You were no longer working at the airport?
No. Mm-mm.
Why not?
Because I was laid off of in sometime of 2004.
For what?
Just because they didn't need supervisors. I mean, there was about 6 supervisors. They started losing 2 airliners in the Oakland airport.
Is that what happened?
Well, he had about 7 jobs since he's had this car, so.
Okay, well, at least he's working.
Same amount for cars for her.
Listen.
Oh, yeah.
Don't talk to each.
Okay.
At least he's working.
He's not now.
Okay. So you lost your job?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Basically, in July, I had asked her, I was renting an apartment in Livermore, California, and also making a car payment, which was about $500 for the apartment, $500 for the car. And I wasn't able to make that unemployed. And I talked to her, and I said, what can I do here? My dad took the car without letting me even know, just basically put a key in the ignition and drove it off.
Okay. You called her in July while you still had the car.
Yes.
And said what?
Well, I said that it was going to be tough to make the car payment. I'll make it next week. The next week is when the car left my property, and I called her again.
Did you make the car payment the following week?
No. But she also didn't call me and say, your dad's coming to pick up the car today.
Well, the following week, Michael, where were you working?
I wasn't working anywhere at that time.
So the likelihood of you making a car payment and paying your rent was slim to none. Would that be a fair statement?
I was waiting for my last paycheck at that time.
How much was that going to be?
Probably about $600.
That just about covered your rent?
Just about covered my rent, yeah, basically.
So that the likelihood of you making a car payment in the foreseeable future was little to none?
Yeah. Basically, well, I mean, the car payment came first.
Michael? Actually. So that when your father came to pick up the car, he came to pick up the car because?
Because she felt that I was going to make the car payment.
And she was absolutely
correct.
Now, did your father keep the car?
No, my understanding, she had said...
Don't tell me your understanding. Just tell me what you said to her. I'll do my own understanding.
Okay.
Tell me what you said.
I told her that, until I get a job or until, I get back on my feet, I cannot afford this apartment and the car. She said that she would help me up until my lease had ended, which would be about 4 months. Okay, I didn't make the July payment. She helped me out with that. When I didn't make the August
So your
payment,
father gave you the car back?
Yes, that day.
Go ahead.
After August, I didn't make the August payment. She had called me up and told me where was it. And I said, I thought we had an agreement that you would help me out. She says, no, you owe me for the July, August, and the car registration. And I need it whenever you can. You need to make it soon. I need the August payment.
Well, first you started to say, she said to you, I need it whenever you can.
Well, yeah, she said, because she said
which one was it? Don't fudge it, Michael.
She wanted it.
Michael.
She wanted it right then and there.
Does your father live off a trust fund, Michael?
My father isn't working right now. Hasn't been working. I guess by her. Alone?
She works.
Yeah.
2 jobs.
Plus your father is unemployed because of? Just because.
Can't find work.
How come you can find work? You look harder.
From a miracle. I mean...
Yes, there are miracles. Michael is waiting for a miracle.
He thinks I was his miracle.
I'm going to tell you something. After today, he's going to know one thing for sure. I'm not his miracle.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Don't you think when you returned the car, Michael, you could have given it a little bit of a vacuum?
Actually, I was thinking about that, but after all the voicemails and emails, I thought, why?
And later today,
I turned around and I started walking towards the doorway. And so as I was walking...
She sold to him. Michael is countersuing for harassment.
Michael, how large is the town where you live, Michael?
Castro Valley has 57,000 people.
How many fast food restaurants do they have, Michael?
I don't know, about 10.
How many of them did you go to and apply for work? Is not an answer, Michael, and I'm a checker. I'm a fact checker.
None of them, ma'am.
None of them. And you didn't go to these restaurants because it was beneath you?
No. I mean, it was only 2 weeks, then I got a job in July.
Well, if you got a job in July, how come you didn't pay your stepmother in August?
It still wasn't. It wasn't picking up my feet.
What kind of a job did you get?
It was just a part-time office job.
Well, that's what I mean, Michael. Listen to me. If you get a part-time office job, then you get a part-time restaurant job or two, and then you have enough to pay your rent and pay your obligations.
That's true, ma'am.
What were you doing when you were just sitting around working only part-time?
Well, it's working part-time, and then,
And then I don't know. Hanging around with your father, maybe?
Yeah, no.
Because he don't work either. Do you have children?
Yes.
How many?
1.
How old?
6.
6. With his father?
Yes.
Does he at least stay home and...
Yes. You're not there.
Regularly?
Yeah, since you gave the car back.
Listen to me, smart mouth. Keep your mouth shut.
Sorry.
Unless I ask you a question. Now, Michael, I would like to hear the defense, because eventually the car was dropped off by you at their house. And according to your stepmother in her complaint, the car was in abominable condition. She's going to show me a picture, aren't you?
Yes.
So I'd like to see it. Stop bouncing around, Michael. You're making me seasick. Do you smoke, Michael?
Yes.
You're not a neat smoker, Michael. There are holes in the seats.
Yeah, there was one hole in the seat.
No, there's more than one hole in the seat, Michael.
That was for my father, actually, when I drove him.
Wonder where he gets money for smokes.
That's what I want to know.
Don't you think when you returned the car, Michael, you could have given it a little bit of a vacuum?
Actually, I was thinking about that, but after all the voicemails and the emails, I thought, why?
Well, because they were very nice to you.
No, she wasn't actually.
Yeah, they were very nice to you, Michael. They stopped being nice to you when you started to be irresponsible.
No, I've been handling this for 2 years, how nice. Even when I didn't have a car, she was not a very nice stepmother. Only when she wanted to be.
Oh,
So.
stop bouncing. First of all, in all probability, you shouldn't have bought the Mustang for yourself.
Correct.
Second of all, it was very bad judgment to turn it over to him because you turned this kind of a $25,000 car over to a teenager.
He used to take care of it.
You were taking a chance. That doesn't mean that he's not responsible. He's responsible for the shortfall. He's a baby. Mrs. Gonzalez, you should not let yourself be taken advantage of by the men in your life. You don't work 2 jobs while the husband doesn't work 1. You know what I'm talking about? That's nuts. You owe your stepmother $5,000, sir, because while she's certainly on the hook for a lot more than that, that's the maximum jurisdiction that I have. What about what?
My defense. She wasn't legally supposed to have that give that car to me. In the state of California, Section 570.
Listen to me. Listen to me. I want you to take out the code that you're referring to. I want you to rip it in 4 equal-sized pieces, and then I'll give you the recipe. You owe your stepmother $5,000 because you took possession of this car with a promise to pay for it. You didn't. I'm speaking.
There's no promise.
You did.
There's no promise. It doesn't say I can't take that car back.
Michael, listen to me very carefully. You did because you made payments on the car for 1.5 years in the exact amount of the car loan. Not more, not less. Because according to you, if you were a little late with a payment, you would make up the late fee.
Where's the credit? I didn't do anything
to me. Pay attention. I ask the questions, you answer the questions. I'm going to get to your counterclaim and take care of that in the next 30 seconds. You say that your stepmother harassed you.
Very much so.
Because she kept calling you and asking for the money.
Telling me my dad.
She was sending you emails.
Mm-hmm.
She was threatening you.
Yes, she threatened me with my dad, her dad, and herself.
Did she threaten to break your kneecaps?
No, he just going to come over and take care of me, and, she thinks I'm scared of my dad, and she uses that over and over and over again.
Michael, if that's the case, I would have vacuumed the car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Step forward.
James Heffernan is suing the mother of his son's schoolmate, Donna Kane, for the cost to fix his son's violin. James says Donna's daughter is to blame for the damage.
Mr. Heffernan, this is your son, I assume, and it is your claim that the defendant's daughter was running down the hall, ran into your son, and damaged his very expensive violin. You want her to pay for fixing it and pay for depreciation of the violin. Ms. Kane says that it was actually your son who was running, ran into the defendant's daughter, and the violin was damaged. Neither of you were there, is that right?
That's right.
Good. So you may both be seated, and I will see you. Your first name is?
Joshua.
And yours?
Desiree.
All right, Joshua. How long have you been playing the violin?
I began in the 4th grade.
You can put it down, please.
Thank you.
And the recital was at school, is that right?
Yes.
On what date?
December 13th.
How many times had you taken the violin to school?
Oh, multiple times. I played with the school orchestra.
So often?
Yes.
And you knew it was an expensive violin?
Yes.
And when you took it to school, I'm sure your father said to you, be very careful.
Naturally.
Because you knew you had to be very careful with it? Because it was very...
expensive.
Now, your first name is?
Desiree.
Desiree, do you like this young man?
Yes.
You were friends?
Yeah.
Are you in the same class?
No.
You knew each other from outside of school?
No.
No. We're both in a choir. Different choirs, but a lot of times the choirs come together.
So that's where you've seen each other?
Yes.
Yes.
And you've always had a cordial relationship?
Yes.
All right, Joshua, why don't you tell me what happened?
Well, we actually have a diagram if you'd like to see that.
I don't.
Okay. Well, I was talking to Hannah Benson over here. She's my witness. And I realized that I needed to have a special pair of shoes in order to perform later that night after I accompanied one of the choirs on the violin. And she would also accompany the choir. So I turned around and walked to go get my shoes.
And where did you have to go for your shoes?
Back down the hallway into the orchestra room where I kept them.
So you turned around.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I turned around and I started walking towards the doorway. And the doorway is at a 90-degree angle with another hallway. And so as I was walking, Desiree and I collided, and the violin was smashed.
You collided at the corner?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So?
If she was not running, it would not have occurred. the instance would not have happened.
Were you running?
Yes.
What were you running to?
I was going back to the dressing room to get my cell phone.
Why?
To call my mom to tell her that we were about to perform.
Okay. Did you see Josh coming around the corner?
No.
Is he coming around the corner quickly or slowly?
Quickly.
Because he was going to get his shoes, right?
Yes.
Now, were you going around the corner a little bit more quickly than you had walked to where the orchestra was meeting?
It wasn't a stroll, but it's most definitely a walk.
Joshua, I asked you a very simple question. Were you walking at a quicker pace than you had walked that whole way before you had to go and get your shoes?
Yes.
Okay, so you were walking quickly too.
Yes.
Perfect. Now you can be seated, and now you can stand up. And you can sit down. Now we have the story. Your son was walking quickly. Your daughter was walking quickly, running, whatever. They collided at a corner, which one would call an...
Accident?
Yes. And when there is an accident, it's nobody's fault sometimes. So why are you here?
Well, my understanding when I had the conversation with my son was that he was walking and Desiree was running.
Well, now you know a little bit of a different story.
When I spoke to his witness, the witness said she was running and he was walking.
But just listen to what just happened here today. Because I said to him, were you walking faster to go and get your shoes than you were before you were going to get your shoes? And he said yes. She may have been walking a little bit faster. She wasn't trying to break what, maybe 3-minute mile? Is that what it is?
4-minute mile.
4-minute mile, whatever it is. I don't do that kind of running. She wasn't charging. She was going to get her cell phone. She wanted to let her mother know she was coming. So they were both walking a little bit too fast. So I don't understand why you're here, Mr. Heffernan. Accidents happen. Not on purpose. It's an accident.
Well, I didn't look at it as an on purpose.
Right. And the law, in my judgment, sir, if a child, a minor child, does something with gross negligence or does something purposefully, she was chasing him in the hall for some reason and the violin broke. But that's not what happened. There were two kids walking too fast in the hallway in school. He brought a violin that was much too expensive in all probability for him to bring to school because accidents in school do happen. So I don't know why you see, you don't have to say a thing. Sometimes things require a lawsuit, sometimes not. This is one of those knots. Have a lovely day. It's a beautiful violin. Is it fixed?
Yes.
Great. Continue to play. You look like a very nice young man, Joshua. Goodbye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's the boss.
61 on the calendar in the matter of Combo and Coy versus Steer. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Are you both the owners of this dance school?
It's a partnership.
Who's going to sleep? Who's going to sleep? Me. Who's going to speak?
I'm going to start and then she can add.
According to your complaint, you hired the defendant to video your annual dance recital.
Correct.
For all the children who take dance lessons at your school. I am somewhat familiar with that, having had children and grandchildren, so I know what that looks like. Instead of each parent trying to get in front of the other, trying to get a picture of their child, you hire one person. Are you thirsty already? I haven't even started. You hire one person to take the video, and everybody can buy a copy.
Correct.
And you hired this gentleman, you're going to tell me why in a moment, and all the parents gave him money. How much did they give him?
It was contracted on an individual basis, so the parents paid $22 if they ordered it ahead of time and $25 if they ordered it at the dance recital or afterwards. So the total is
just
$969 for the parents.
Either $22 or $25. And how many children were there?
All of the parents that bought, there were 45 parents that bought videos for their children.
And they did not take any videos of their own because they're not supposed to.
Correct.
And according to your complaint, the video that he took was unwatchable.
Correct.
That he said he was a professional, he was really an amateur, that he came with inappropriate equipment. And not only do you want the money back that was paid to him, but you want other kinds of damages as well. Well, I want you to forget the other damages. Okay. I mean, at best, if I find that what you say is accurate, you can get your money back.
Correct.
Maybe.
For the parents.
So that would be $969. Okay. The one wrinkle here is that you went to his place of business and you took the tape.
Yes, because it was after 6 weeks and we waited 4 months, and he basically said that he didn't have the equipment to finish, so then I had to get it from him to contract outside services. Otherwise, we would have never gotten a video.
That's not true.
What kind of experience do you have, Mr. Steer, doing this video?
I worked for ABC as I designed commercials, I edited commercials, I was a morning show director for ABC for about 2 years.
What kind of experience do you have as a videographer?
I've edited commercials.
No, they edited commercials.
This is the first time
Listen to me. Edited commercials doesn't mean you're a recorder. Edited means you take somebody else's work and you edit it down. That's what an editor does.
I would single-handedly set up cameras,
Mr. Steer.
get all the videography I needed.
No. Listen to me. I asked you a question because I'm going to get the answer to the question, and not only am I going to get the answer to the question, I am also going to get the names of the people that I can call if I want to, who you videographed. So, don't tell me you were an editor. Don't tell me that you set up cameras. Don't tell me that you worked for ABC doing whatever you did at ABC, unless you were there as a videographer. Right. Now, how much experience did you have as a videographer, and with whom?
This is my first time doing
That's the answer.
For them. And I made Tracy
No.
though.
It's not what I asked you.
Yeah.
That's not what I asked you. Whether it was your first experience with them, we know that. I asked you if this was the first experience that you have as a videographer with anybody.
Can you go into more depth about that? Give me an
Well,
example
let me do this. Have you ever been the recorder, the videographer, at a wedding? Yes or no? And then the names of the people.
For WEMY, I worked in Elmira, New York, and we would set up our studio, and we'd have segments for cooking shows, you name it.
What were you? What did you do?
I was a director. I was a production
Mr.
assistant.
Steer, so far, that's nothing. I know what a production assistant does, and I know what a director does. So far, that's not as a videographer. Have you worked before with a camera? You standing there holding a camera at an event?
And except itself?
Yes.
No.
So this was your first paid job as a videographer?
True.
Did you tell that to Miss Combo?
No. Miss Coy, I did.
He told you that he had never done this before?
He told me that he had worked at ABC. And he also told me that he had gone to school for it, so his qualifications seemed intact. This is the beginning of our dance studio, so we were, and we also had he did give us an example of some of his work.
So he told you that he had never done it before, but he went to school for it?
Yes.
Well, Miss Combo, I haven't seen the tape yet to see whether you got what you paid for, because he says that this is his own artistic expression. I got to see this. But if you're in business and you want to hire somebody and tell the parents of all your students you're not allowed to take pictures because we've hired somebody, you have a responsibility also to hire somebody whose credentials you can verify. And say, listen, everybody's got to start someplace. But maybe he has to start working for somebody free and say, listen, I want to do this wedding, I want to do this 75th birthday, I want to do this bar mitzvah for free. But I want you to write a letter that I did a good job. Me, he's coming to you and he's saying, I have no experience except I went to school.
I was under the understanding that when he worked for ABC, he did do videography. That's why I didn't trust him. I knew that this was his first experience with the dance.
Well, he tried to double-talk me the same way. He just was not as successful as he was with you. Let me see the tape.
This is just a sample, Your Honor, of... It's a much shortened version, but it just gives examples of things that we were upset about. This is one of our routines.
Shh. Just a second. So here I have a lot of little girls dancing around, a little bit blurry, a little bit out of focus, but then we got back into focus. We want to take pictures of the legs, sir. This is a dance recital, not of breasts. Legs, not breasts. Mr. Steer, you are preoccupied with the wrong part of the anatomy, sir.
No, I think you're taking it out of context. There was a second camera that I was supposed to be issued by them. It was supposed to be a digital camcorder of that same quality that was going to be at the back of the auditorium. However, they gave me a camera that was 8mm, and the quality of the video was unusable. So parts of this that you're seeing were supposed to be used and edited into it, the other footage.
Here he drops the camera.
But because that's the only footage I have, that was the only footage I had to work with, I wanted to have everything on there so that the music was still on there. That's all I had to work with.
Mr. Steer, it's awful. And you cannot say that this was your artistic vision, because if this was your artistic vision, you're sight impaired.
You're right. You're right. And that's not that's not what I'm trying to convey.
Well, explain to me what you're trying to convey,
My
sir.
point was, I was told originally I was going to get $2,500 for this project. That was based on the fact that they had 150 students. 100 of those were supposed to sign up.
They didn't.
At $25 each, that would be $2,500.
You mean if they paid you more money, it would have been better?
I want...
Just a second. Mr. Steer, is what you're telling me. If they paid you more money, it would have been better?
Absolutely correct. Because... It's because I wanted $1,200 up front. With that $1,200, I was going to rent a professional camera to set up in the back. The close-ups I would have taken with that camera you saw. and the editing would have coincided, but it
Mr.
didn't.
Steer, you did the wrong thing. You did the wrong thing by suggesting to these people that you had sufficient now I see why you poured the water. Suggesting to these people that you had sufficient who is this person, by the
This
way?
is my father.
Yeah, well, he's smiling. You did the wrong thing by suggesting to these people that you had sufficient expertise to record as a historian a dance recital for kids who had worked very hard. Don't speak. Put on your listening ears. Now, that's not to say that you don't have to start someplace. And you're very good at tooting your own horn. But when you separate the wheat from the chaff, sir, you had absolutely no experience as a videographer. None. And if you wanted to say that to Miss Coy, who is not only a little bit coy, but a little bit gullible, I would have said, I have no experience doing this videography. I was a director at ABC. I took a course in photography. I'll do my best. I was a film editor, none of which gives you qualifications to be a videographer.
That's precisely
Nothing.
what I said.
No, I don't think that that's what you said, because I don't think Ms. Coy is stupid, and she wouldn't have hired you if that were the case, because there were other people that they could have hired, or they could have gotten one of the parents to do a job that's better than this. They get their money back, Mr. Steer, and I suggest you go back to school. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $969. That's all. Thanks.
Parties are excused. You may step. Strutter versus Ross. Step forward.
18-year-old student Caitlin Strutter is suing her former friend, 21-year-old student Mandy Ross, for damaging her laptop. Caitlin says Mandy dropped a drink on it during a New Year's Eve party.
Ms. Strutter, it is your claim that you left your computer in sort of a living area of an apartment that was shared by your boyfriend?
Yes.
And the defendant's boyfriend?
Yes.
You were a guest in that apartment?
Yes.
I know that there's a certain hesitancy, but you were not on the lease and you were not regularly living there, nor should you have been.
No.
So you were visiting, you left your computer, and they had a party, and it is your claim that the defendant damaged your computer at the party?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And the defendant says that it's true she bumped into the table and something fell over on your computer and did damage the computer, but your computer shouldn't have been left open. And was it left open?
No, it was closed.
Closed. It shouldn't have been left in the middle of a party. Should have taken it and secured it in a better place.
Correct.
That's your defense. When did this happen?
New Year's Eve.
How many people were at the party?
Well, we didn't know he was having a party at the time.
Well, but there came a time when you knew there was a party because people came.
Well, we just thought there was going to be like 2 people.
Listen to me. You knew at some point that there were people in the apartment.
Yes.
Is it a house?
Yes.
Upstairs and downstairs?
Yes.
How many people showed up?
Like 15 people, but we were told that there was only going to be 2 or 3.
Listen to me. You're not following me. 15 people showed up at the party.
Yes.
And your computer was downstairs in the living room?
Yes, that's where I kept it.
You mean you didn't take it to your house?
No, I had 2 laptops and I brought them over, so they had 2 other roommates at the time, and I brought the computer over so they could use it.
So you would loan them the computer?
Yes. And I previously told them before that when I brought it in that there was no eating or drinking.
Shh. No eating or drinking around your computer. Miss Shrouded, don't be stupid. You lend a computer to a bunch of guys living in an apartment and you're going to tell them not to drink around your computer? Don't be naive.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Against the coffee table, which caused a drink to spill on top of the laptop.
They didn't bump into the table because the screen is cracked. She had to be dancing over it with a bottle to make so much impact.
His former friend, Mandy Ross, dropped a drink on her laptop computer during a New Year's Eve party.
So this was a loan to whom? Your boyfriend?
Yes, and his brother and just the roommates.
So you didn't leave the computer there. They did?
Yes.
Are you the boyfriend? Stand up. What's your last name?
Beamer.
Mr. Beamer, is it true that the plaintiff loaned the computer to you and your brother and your other roommates with the expectation it was going to be returned to her?
Yes.
Now, what happened to the computer?
Okay, it was New Year's Eve, and my boyfriend was throwing a party, and the plaintiff and her boyfriend were present, so they knew there was going to be a party. Okay, I'm sorry.
Just tell me what happened with the computer.
Okay. So the computer was sitting out on the coffee table, unattended. It was surrounded by drinks, and she was aware of this before she...
Don't tell me... I just asked you what happened to the computer.
I was dancing over by the computer with my boyfriend, and we bumped up against... Well, I bumped up against the coffee table, which caused a drink to spill on top of the laptop.
And it got all wet?
Yes. And we immediately picked it up and cleaned it off and everything. We were worried about it.
So, Ms. Schroeder, you didn't get the computer back the way you gave it to your boyfriend?
No.
You're suing the wrong person.
It wasn't his fault.
Yes, it was. When you loan somebody something, they have a responsibility to safeguard it.
Well...
Listen to me. I want you to put on your listening ears.
Okay.
When you loan somebody something, it is their responsibility to safeguard it. Let me give you an example. When my 3-year-old grandchildren come to my house, I take all the glass off the tables and I put it in cabinets because that's what you do to safeguard your valuables from danger. Now, the fact that you knew that there were people there, you may not have expected them to come, but you knew that there were 15 people there because according to you, you went upstairs. It got too noisy, it got too whatever, so you went upstairs. So you knew that there were a lot of people there.
Yeah.
And you knew your computer was there.
Yeah.
You had a responsibility to yourself to take the computer.
But they were...
Listen, but more importantly, he borrowed the computer. He has a responsibility to safeguard it. What happened with your computer was an accident.
But it wasn't just borrowed to him. It was borrowed to hit her boyfriend, too.
Sue them both.
So...
Sue her boyfriend, sue your boyfriend. What you do is you say, I loaned you the computer. You returned it to me damaged. I don't care who you sue for the computer, but you did not return my computer to me in the same condition that I loaned it to you. Do you get it?
Yeah. Can I say something?
If you feel as if you must,
Yes.
so far you're home free.
Okay, I just wanted you to know that prior to the party, they had all had a house meeting, which my boyfriend was present, her boyfriend was present, and she was present. And
Were you present?
No, that's why
Well,
I
he
brought
was,
him with
so
me.
get up and talk to me. What's your name?
My name is Jacob Heimbach. 2 weeks prior, we had a house meeting, and Kate had brought up that she doesn't like everybody drinking or, all around the computer. It's her valuable. So I did bring up the point that whenever you're done using it, why don't you put it away? That way nothing can happen. And she told us that she didn't want to do it, that she just wanted us to be more careful around it. And the night of the New Year's Eve party, when I came home, I started socializing. I saw people in there, which we did tell ahead of time there were people coming. That she was, all of a sudden the music got turned off. I went, what's going on? She had turned on the TV and started watching VH1. And during the middle of our party, which is at my house, which she is not a resident there, but yet she's been living there every single night since we moved in. The reason why she brought her computers over was because she spent too much time at our own house instead of her own, so she can get her internet schoolwork done.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
She loaned, according to her and according to her boyfriend, one of her computers to your house so that you would have an opportunity to have a computer. Is that correct?
Correct.
Then it is your responsibility to take care of it. You can have a house meeting and say, listen, you take your computer and put it away. But if she loans the computer to you, it's your responsibility to return it to her in the same condition that she gave it to you.
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't do that. I find no fault with Miss Ross that you were having a New Year's Eve party. There's no indication that she did anything purposefully to this computer. She bumped into the table. The computer got wet. What?
They didn't bump into the table because the screen is cracked. Like, it is cracked completely. She had to be dancing over it with a bottle and had to drop on the computer to make that so much impact.
I don't know whether that's true or not. All I know is that it was your boyfriend's responsibility to ensure that the computer was put in a safe place. And absent of showing that she purposely damaged your computer, you have to accept some responsibility for that. And I think that some additional responsibility has to be placed right over there at your feet because he says that you live there every day. Is that true?
I stayed there every night, yes.
Ms. Schroeder, grow up and take responsibility. You should have taken a computer if it was valuable and put it away when you saw that there were 15 people there. You got it?
Yes.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She was drunk and stirring her words and everything. I remember.
Number 564 on the calendar in the matter of Buckingham Kelly versus O'Keefe. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Miss Buckingham, this is your daughter, I assume?
Yes, ma'am.
And this young man used to be her boyfriend.
Correct.
Your complaint, what are you laughing at?
Never dated, ma'am.
You bailed him out of jail.
Correct.
And you want him to pay you back.
Correct.
And Mr. O'Keefe says, thank you very much. He never asked you to bail him out. He doesn't know your dime.
Correct.
How did you know him? He's not related to you, right?
Right.
So, if he's not your daughter's boyfriend, why in the world would you bail him out of jail?
He called me crying from jail about
Well, how did you?
one night.
He didn't get your number randomly. How did you know him?
No, ma'am. He had an interest in my daughter, and we also worked together.
When you said that mean?
They went out to dinner. She spent time at his place. He would come pick her up. They would go to the show.
Is that right?
Yes.
Did you think he was a boyfriend of yours?
We dated. We were seeing each other. You know, that's the impression that I got. We all worked together, and he was leaving me notes on my desk and things like that, you know.
What kind of notes was he leaving on your desk?
Just like, you look cute today, let's go out later. And, like, that was on a daily basis. I mean, to me, it became pretty apparent that we were seeing each other. We were exclusive. I wasn't seeing anybody else. And
Did you have an intimate relationship with him?
No.
Well, maybe that's his problem, you see. Because maybe he thinks that unless you have an intimate relationship with somebody, you can't call him a boyfriend. Is that what you think, sir?
Yeah, I never dated her.
Well, what does that mean?
Together.
What does a date mean to you? Did you take her? Listen,
Dating
look,
to me is...
look at me. I'll ask you questions better, and then maybe I'll let you talk. Did you take her out for dinner?
No, we never went out for dinner.
Did you take...
He did. Multiple times he took me out to dinner.
Refresh his recollection. Maybe he has short-term memory loss. Where did you go for dinner?
The time when the place, there was a seafood place, it was closed, and then we went down, we went to Ponderosa, it was the only place that was open.
And
we went and saw a movie
Ponderosa
together.
with her?
The Ponderosa we went to during a work get-together.
How many people went?
At least 10 to 12.
Nobody was there except me and him, and every place was closed, and our work gets off at 4. No place was open. They were like one of the only places we had to go.
So he didn't think you were having a relationship, but you thought you were having a relationship, and you all worked together.
Correct.
So he called you crying from jail. When?
It was March 29th, 10:30 that evening. He had not showed up for work for several days. We all at work had become concerned that he had not called in.
Where did you work?
For a high school advertising agency in Crown Point.
Did you call her at 10:30 at night on the 29th of March?
I did, Your Honor.
What did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
He was crying. He was upset. He said, I've been arrested. I wrecked my motorcycle. You've got to help me. You've got to get me out of jail. I can't get a hold of my mother. I can't get a hold of my father. I did know his parents were divorced based on the relationship he had with my daughter. And he said he needed help. He needed bailed out of jail. He thought it would be about $4,500. He asked me if I could help him. He was concerned about losing his job and therefore losing his apartment. And he gave me his Social Security number, his father's name, and his attorney's name, and asked me to please call and please help him and bail him out.
Did you have his Social Security number?
Yes, ma'am.
What is it?
Would you like for me to read it to you?
I would.
It is 51.
And he gave it to you on the phone on the 29th of March?
Yes, ma'am.
Incorrect.
Okay. Shh. I'll get to you. Did you try calling his attorney?
I left his attorney a voicemail. By this time, it was about 11 p.m., and my daughter and I went to the police station, got a bail bondsman, which I have...
on the 29th?
Yes, ma'am. I have his business card here, along with the bail bonds.
How much did you have to give the bail bondsman?
$4,500.
Okay.
Mr. O'Keefe had told me on the phone that he thought the bond would be about $450 for 2 unpaid traffic tickets. After I put the $4,500 on my Visa card, I found out there was forgery charges, there was driving while suspended, resisting arrest, theft. And I knew none of that before I put the money on my credit card and the bail bonds were given to me.
Did you appear in court, Mr. O'Keefe, on the 8th of April?
I did, ma'am.
And what happened to the forgery and theft charge?
They were dismissed.
And what happened to the other charge, the resisting, reckless driving?
I believe they were amended with no license in possession.
And what happened on that charge?
I don't recall. I just believe that they were amended. Nothing ever happened from it.
Well, did you pay a fine, sir?
Yeah, I paid fines, yes.
Well, then you pled guilty.
Yes.
Either you plead guilty, plead not guilty, you go to trial, you take a plea. There are very few options. So you pled guilty. Do you have a certificate of disposition of dismissal on the forgery and theft charges?
I would be able to get them, yes.
Well, today's the day, sir. Today's the court date.
Understand.
What arrangement, Miss Buckingham, did you make with regard to the repayment of this $4,500 bail?
He told me on the phone, if you can bail me out of jail, you'll have the money back within 3 days. I have over $2,600 saved at my apartment in a coffee can. It was the 29th of March of '05. He was getting ready to send in his taxes. He said then he would have the rest of the money from his tax return and that I would have the money back. If he did not get enough money back from his tax return, that his father would help pay the bail bonds.
But originally, Miss Buckingham, didn't he tell you that he thought the bail would be about $450?
Correct.
So why was he talking in terms of $2,600?
I have no idea.
I didn't even know how much my bail was. Had I known it would have been that much, I would have never even asked my parents to get me out of jail. I would have sat there.
On the 29th of March, how many phone calls did you make?
I believe 3.
The first one was to whom?
To my father.
And what happened with that phone call?
My father owns a bar, and being the owner of the bar, he was unable to leave the bar to come get me.
Oh, I want you to tell me the conversation that you had with somebody.
But the only person that I did get in contact with that night was Miss Buckingham.
No. That's not what I asked you. I said I want you to tell me the conversation you had with your father.
I said that I had been arrested. I'm at Lake County Jail. Can you please come bail me out?
And he said, sorry, I can't leave my place of business.
Exactly.
Cross out father. Who was the next person that you called?
Next person I called was my mother. Was unable to get a hold of her.
And what was the purpose of the call to your mother after the call to your father?
The same, to let her know that I was there and if someone can come get me.
No mother?
Correct.
Then you called the plaintiff?
Yes.
What'd you call the plaintiff for?
She was also a coworker.
What did you call the plaintiff for?
To let her know that I was in jail and to let her know work that I would be
Baloney!
obtained.
You can't even say that with a straight face, O'Keefe. You can't even say it with a straight face because you didn't figure out where I was going. You didn't figure out until it was too late.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So your father didn't come in.
Jennifer Kelly claimed Jennifer's ex-boyfriend Ryan O'Keefe owes for bail money. Marie claims Ryan was crying when he called her from jail.
Well, let's see the pathology of what you did that evening. You called your father in a panic and said, can you come and bail me out? And your father, who was probably had it up to here with you, said, I'm working. I'm not coming to bail you out. Then you start to sweat and you call your mother to, according to you, come and bail you out. You can't even get her on the phone. Then you say, well, now I'm going to do the responsible thing. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm going to call Miss Buckingham and tell her, please tell the boss I'm not able to come to work. You haven't been at work a whole day.
Right.
But please tell the boss I'm not able to come to work tomorrow. I don't want to lose my job. Do you know how ridiculous that sounds, Mr. O'Keefe?
As ridiculous as it sounds, I wouldn't, not that jail is the best place to be, it is not. I would have sat there and sat my time out to meet with the judge to get a bond reduced or until I got a hold of someone.
Well, you got a hold of your mother and you got a hold of your father, and your mother didn't want any part of you.
My father would have come within a few days or so.
Your father didn't want any part of you.
He couldn't come.
He didn't want any part of you. He owns a bar. How big a bar?
Pretty good sized bar.
Pretty good sized bar. How many employees does he have?
6 to 8.
He could send one of his employees. All I know is if I got a call from my son who had never been in trouble before, and he said, come and bail me out, I wouldn't say I'm very sorry. I'm doing a television program. You'll have to sit there and wait till I'm finished. And I got news for you. A lot more people depend on me than depend upon your father.
Understand.
So your father didn't come and get you because he's had it up to here with your nonsense. Because if you had outstanding warrants, sir, and you had outstanding warrants, your father has come and bailed you out before, and you haven't shown up.
He's always.
He hasn't, and that's what happened. He came, bailed you out before, and you blew off court, which is why they issued warrants for your arrest. Your father said, you sit there. Then you called your mother. You figured maybe I get to my mother. Maybe my mother will feel a little bit softer. But don't tell me you called her and just told her, please report to the boss that I'm not coming to work the next day. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I think that you're used to getting over on people. And it seems to me that your parents have had enough of you. So has Miss Buckingham. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,500. That's all.
Thank you. Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's a little upsetting.
Parties in the matter of Croucher versus Thorek. Step forward, please.
Heather Croucher is suing her mother, Gay Thorek, for a series of unpaid loans. Heather claims her mom has a gambling problem.
Miss Croucher, this is your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
You claim that you extended 2 loans to her when she needed them. Your mother says, well, she acknowledges the fact that you gave her money. It was a gift. There were never any strings attached and never any promise to repay you, so therefore no contract. When was the first loan and for what?
November 20th of 2005.
And tell me how that came about.
She had called me, told me that her car insurance was past due and that she needed money to get her car back on the road so she wouldn't lose her job.
What kind of job do you have?
School bus driver.
Are you the oldest? And I gather from your complaint that there are 10 children? Mm-hmm. How many at home?
6 small. They're under 16.
Where's their father?
Lives a couple blocks from me.
Did he help out with the children?
Somewhat.
What do you mean somewhat?
He has a few that live with him and live with me, but they're back and forth all the time.
You have joint custody of the children?
Yes.
And he's the father of all 6 children who are at home? Is there any child support involved? Or
no.
Because they spend 50% of the time with each parent?
That's right.
What does he do for a living?
A nursing assistant.
Okay. How much was your car insurance?
It wasn't my car insurance. It was for a Christmas gift.
How much money did she ask for the car insurance?
I gave her $351.72.
What did she say to you about repaying you?
That her first paycheck before Christmas would be the first payment. She'd pay me back.
How did you get this $351.72 to her?
I took it out of my paycheck.
And how did you give it to her?
Oh, I sent her a check.
Do you have that check?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see it, please. A week came, and she didn't pay you back.
Yes. It was about 2 weeks later she'd actually called for another loan.
Well, tell me about that second call.
Second call was for $600. I actually gave her this money without my husband knowing because I took it out of my own paycheck. I thought before he'd know about it, I could actually have it paid back, that she'd pay me back.
Well, did you ask her about the $351.72?
Yes, and then she promised before December 23rd on her next paycheck she would pay me back the $600 plus the $351.72.
What did she say she needed the $600 for?
To pick up layaways for my brothers and sisters for Christmas.
Okay, and finally?
Finally, about a week or so before Christmas, she called and asked for $1,000. I then asked my husband, because it was
I figured it was a big amount. I didn't want to get any more trouble with him, so I asked him if it would be okay if we gave her money, and I basically had to beg and plead with him because of her track record. He finally agreed. He actually wanted something in writing from her because of her track record, but he said he'd just give her a check. She said she'd pay that amount back with her tax money.
Did she say why she was so financially strapped?
She's always financially strapped. She
Why?
loves the casino.
Which casino?
It's in New York. She lives in New York. I live in Florida. I'm not sure of the name of the casino.
How do you know she goes to the casino?
She goes all the time. Every paycheck, that's where you can find her. She usually stays at the hotel.
Which hotel do you stay at?
I don't.
Why would your daughter make up a story like that?
I have no idea.
Well, she's
I don't
not
know where
making-
this comes from. I haven't been to a casino in probably almost a year. Because I live alone and I have
Well,
to...
the reason she's not
I have
giving
to
her
bring my...
Let her finish.
Okay.
I have to raise the children that live with me. I cannot afford to go to the casino.
Well, you say you live alone. You don't live alone.
I live alone with my children, that's all.
You live alone with your children part-time.
She has 2 children.
No, I have 2 permanently. And the other ones come and go 50% of the time. I would say more like 90%
How
of the
old
time.
are the 2 children who live with you permanently?
9 and 14.
Why don't they go to their father?
They don't want to live with their father.
Why would you take money from your daughter?
I told her I did not want it. She did not have to send it to me.
Just a minute. You did take money from your daughter on 3 separate, distinct occasions, because the first check was in November, the second check was the beginning of December, the third check was the end of December. So with 3, if you're telling me that you didn't want to take the money, all you had to do was rip up the checks. So now I'm going to ask you another question. Why would you take money from your daughter?
It was something she wanted so I could pick up layaways for the children for Christmas. So that they would have a good Christmas.
That's not her responsibility. That's your
That's something
responsibility.
she wanted to
Listen
do.
to me. That's not her responsibility. You chose to have 10 children.
Correct.
With your husband.
Correct.
That's not her responsibility. That's your foolishness if you can't support
it's
10
not
children.
foolishness.
If you
No,
can't
it's not.
support, listen to me, if you can't support 10 children and if you have to rely on your older children and it doesn't seem to know.
It was their choice.
Listen to me. Carefully. Very carefully. We're talking responsibility, madam. You chose to have 10 children. She didn't ask to be born. She's married. I assume she's working because she says she
No.
gets a paycheck.
Nope. She's not working at this time now.
Were you working when you gave your mother the money? Because she said she took that money out of her paycheck. And she has a husband. Do you have children?
I have 2.
2 that I don't see.
There might be a reason for that.
That's because we live in Florida.
Well, I purchased airline tickets to come down February break. She wouldn't let me come down. She said, no, you're not coming down. I don't want
That's
you
the
there.
first I've heard of that.
Oh, yeah, right. You talk to the ex-husband all the time.
Listen to me very carefully, madam.
Ex-husband
You're
who
not
excuse
paying
me.
attention. It's not your children's job to support you.
I didn't
It's
say
your
it was.
job to support your children. And if you feel as if your children are rolling in dough,
I never said that.
then you don't take money from them.
She sent it as a gift.
You don't take money from them. You
They were
say,
sent
I'm...
as
Pay
gifts.
attention!
Oh, I am.
You say, I'm the mother, you're the child. I don't take money from you. I give you things. I give you presents. I give my grandchildren presents. I don't take money from you to take money away from your life. You get a second job. You drive a school bus. That's great. School bus is 3-4 hours a day. Get a job
8
on the
hours a
weekends
day,
if
thank you.
get a job on the weekends if you need more money. Parents don't take money from children. Children, unfortunately, take money from parents. It doesn't work the other way around.
Does when it is a gift.
Listen to
When
me.
it's a gift.
You're not paying attention.
Oh, I
Try
am
putting
paying
on your
attention.
listening ears.
No.
If you are a good mother, and you know
I
that
am a
you're-
good mother.
If you're a good mother,
I am
and
an
your
excellent
daughter
mother
says
to
to
raise
you,
10 children.
listen
I
to
am
me.
an excellent mother.
Listen
Yes.
to me, my dear. If your daughter, who has 2 children and is probably struggling to make ends meet, says to you, I want to give you a gift so that you'll have money for Christmas, a good mother says, I don't want the money.
I did.
Then you take the checks and you rip them up when
And
she
then
sends
she
them.
would have been mad at me.
Oh, get over it. Get over it. You've got one excuse after another. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,951. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Counsel, case number 590 on the calendar, the matter of Thomas versus Stein. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks have a seat.
Your action is really one that Miss Stein wrongfully changed the locks and evicted you from an apartment that you were sharing with your former girlfriend.
Correct.
Miss Stein says that you were not an authorized tenant in that apartment, that your former girlfriend, is she here?
She's right here.
That would be you, had asked her to help get you out of the apartment, that she had no knowledge of your being in the apartment, that you weren't supposed to be in the apartment. She did, in fact, change the locks and put out your things because you refused to leave. And in addition, she is counterclaiming because she says that since the time you left, you have vandalized the apartments that she owns. Let me get a little background. Ms. Stein, tell me about the apartment that Mr. Thomas was living in with his girlfriend.
I never knew that he was living there to begin with. I rented to Janelle Howard. She was supposed to be the only one living there, and I never went to the property.
She is an employee of yours?
Yes.
What kind of business do you have?
Telemarketing.
How long has she been employed by you?
I think 2.5, maybe 3 years. I don't remember, but probably that long. But she's only been living there a year.
Living in the apartment that you own. And how many apartments are in this unit?
It's just 2.
Her rent?
$700.
Does she have a lease?
She has a lease.
Do you have a copy of that lease?
Yes,
Can I see it, please? Okay, well, your lease specifically states that Miss Janelle Howard was to be the only tenant, and guests staying over 15 days without the written consent of the owner, that's you, will be a breach of the lease. So you understand that you had no right to be in that apartment, Mr. Thomas.
Your Honor, the date that was signed was actually about the 1st of January of this year. What's the date on the lease?
1/10/05.
No, that was signed around the 10th of January of this year. And
no.
Janelle can attest to that.
No.
Just a second. Step up. Miss Howard, when did you sign this lease?
I signed that lease in January.
Of what year?
Of this year.
Well, then, the two of you falsified this. Is that right?
I didn't falsify it. She had a lease agreement with me.
Just a second. Miss Stein, listen to me very carefully. This is your witness. Your witness says that this lease was signed this year, 2006, and not 2005. I believe her. So don't compound your position with another lie to me. It will not go well for you. Do you understand?
I understand.
Now, did you have a lease with her that covered 2005?
A verbal agreement.
All right. So there was only a verbal agreement. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Okay. Very bad form to submit a piece of evidence that you know is false. Very bad form. What kind of verbal agreement did you have, allegedly, with Miss Howard?
That she could be the only one to live on my property, as I had to evict her cousin and her friends who vandalized.
Was that your agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were not to have anybody else living there?
Correct.
Did you tell that to Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
See, she's the one I believe.
Mm-hmm.
When did you move in?
The day she moved in, on January 7th, 2005.
When did you tell Mr. Thomas that you were supposed to be the only tenant?
That same day.
Is that right?
Yes.
When did she put you out?
She put me out on February the 16th of 2006. But I got evidence here that she accepted me as a tenant, okay, and she raised her rent from $700 to $950 a month. Check stubs reflecting that right here. And that was 19th of 2005.
Just a second. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you told Miss Stein that Mr. Thomas was living there?
Eventually, yes.
When?
Like in December.
See, Miss Stein? Eventually we'd get to the truth. You want to know why? Because even though Miss Howard may be scared to death of Mr. Thomas, I think she's more frightened of me. So what did you do when she told you that Mr. Thomas was living there? You raised her rent.
Well,
You're in serious trouble as it is with me. So let's make sure that you tell me the truth.
I'm going to tell you the truth.
Well, then get to it. That's either a yes or a no. She told you that he was living there. Did you raise her rent?
I raised her rent.
Not
Fine.
because of that.
Just, hey, I'm not speaking to you.
Sorry.
Right. Okay, so you are right. So you lived there for a year without permission. But then in December, because she raised your rent, you had permission to live there.
Correct.
Because she allowed her to modify the oral lease to include the fact that she had somebody else living there, and she was charging her the extra $250 rent because, according to you, the money was coming right out of her paycheck, correct?
Right.
Now, she put you out when, sir?
She put me out on February 16th of 2006.
When did she first give you notice that she wanted you to leave?
Well, she has a problem talking for herself, so she asked her boss to call, and Shoshana called me on the 27th of January.
Who's she? You mean Janelle had a problem talking herself?
She has a problem talking to her boss. She's intimidated by her.
Not by you?
No. She's not intimidated at all by me.
Okay.
She's intimidated by her boss.
Not necessarily, sir, because she just stood up and testified in direct opposition to what her boss's position was.
That's because she knows the penalties for perjury.
You think you know her so well, right? You think you know her so well?
I lived with her for 5 years. I think I know her well.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Claims ex-landlord Shoshana Stein illegally evicted him and allowed his property to sit outside in the rain. Shoshana is countersuing, claiming Stephen vandalized her property.
Okay. Ms. Howard.
Yes.
Did there come a time that you wanted Mr. Thomas out of the apartment?
Yes.
When was that?
The dates that he said, like a couple months before that, I had discussed with him that I wanted to go our separate ways, that I just wanted to take a break. And
did you tell him why?
Because I was tired of the way we were treating each other. I couldn't handle it anymore. And so I asked him, we just need to take a break. And he just, it went at one ear out the other, I guess.
What did he say?
He didn't really say much. It like blew over. The next day, it was like nothing happened. And I felt that he ignored what I wanted. And so I told my boss about it and asked
What did you tell her?
I told her what I had told him and that he wasn't doing anything. He was acting as if I didn't say anything to him, that there was no problem. And maybe if she had said something to him, he would listen to her.
You've been living with Mr. Thomas for 5 years. Has Mr. Thomas been employed during that time?
Yes.
So he helped support the household?
Always.
What was wrong? Was he abusive to you?
No.
You abusive to him?
No.
Just weren't happy?
Yeah.
Okay. So you asked Miss Stein if she could help you?
Yes.
What did you do, Miss Stein?
She would come to the office crying every day, telling me how miserable she was. She couldn't work. She was upset with him. He was abusing her mentally. She would tell me she's terrified of him. She asked me if I would please step in and ask him to leave, stating that he wasn't supposed to live there. I did it as a favor to her and said, okay, I'll call him. And I was very nice to him. I told him that he wasn't supposed to be there. She didn't want it to come from her. She wanted it to come from me, as though I wanted him to leave. So I said, fine, I'll do it. And that was it. And a week went by. He didn't leave. I talked to Janelle, asked her what she wanted me to do. She said she wanted him out. And I said, well, if you want him out, you got to talk to Gary. I can't handle the stress.
Who's Gary?
Gary takes care of all the things that I can't because I've had 8 operations.
He works for you?
He does all sorts of stuff. He's a handyman. He's an engineer. He does lots of stuff.
Got it.
So he came in and said that he would take care of the property and he would go in and change the locks. And I said, you know, what do you want to do? He's your boyfriend. It's up to you. He has no lease agreement with me. Put his stuff out then. So they did so. He was supposed to come and pick it up. They covered it all up. And he never picked it up. And he changed the locks and he broke in.
Miss Stein, you know what your problem is?
Probably a big one.
Yeah, your problem is a big one. Because up until December of 2005, prior to your accepting him as a tenant, and she was...
But I never accepted him.
Oh, yes. You raised her rent $250 a month because he was living there. And once you raised her rent because he was living there, you accepted him as a tenant.
It was only 2 months.
Doesn't make any difference. Don't you understand, Miss Stein? Don't you understand?
Okay.
Once you said, I now know he's here, officially, and because he's here, I am raising your rent, you created a tenancy. And if there was a tenancy created, you can't just change the locks and put his stuff out. If he doesn't want to leave and he's a tenant, you have to go in and have him evicted. Eviction is not changing the locks and putting his stuff outside and covering him with a tarp. You can't do that. Sit down, Janelle. This gentleman wants to say something to me, and I am dying to hear him. Your last name is?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I was listening to her.
Your last name is?
Gladstone.
Yes, sir.
Many of these things aren't exactly the way they've been said to be, but...
Listen to me, sir. That's my job.
Okay.
If you have testimony that you feel is relevant, I'll hear you. Whether they are not is what they seem to be, that's for me to determine. I do know this. I do know that Ms. Stein came in with a forged document. I do know that she created a tenancy with Mr. Thomas by increasing the rent consistent with his being on the property. And I do know that in violation of every law in every jurisdiction in this country, she changed the locks during the course of his tenancy and put him out on the street without the assistance of the court system.
That's not true.
That's what she told me. So if you're calling her a liar, I'm more than prepared to hear you, Mr. Gladstone.
I'm telling you what the truth is. Anyway, Janelle asked me if I would change the locks, that she wanted Stephen to go.
You have no right to do that. If Janelle asked you...
It's her apartment.
Listen to me. No, sir. It's not her apartment. You're not hearing. You don't have your listening ears on, Mr. Gladstone.
Anyone can have the locks.
Oh, Mr. Gladstone, do me a favor. I'm going to sign you up for the LSATs. You go take your law school examination boards. Then you go to law school for 3 years. Then you practice for 35. Then you tell me what the law is. Sit down. Sit down. I've had enough. Sit. Sit!
This is the one who removed Stephen's stuff.
Now you can put him outside.
All right. Nothing was
Now
on her
you can
order.
put him out.
Nothing was
Now
on
you
her
can
order.
put him out.
Good try. Did a good job. Okay.
Where did you go when you were put out, Mr. Thomas?
I'm living in my truck right now
Why are you living in your truck?
because I don't have the money to put down.
Why didn't you have the money if you were constantly employed?
They put a restraining order on me to try and evict me, and my tools have been caught up in eviction for 15 days, and I punched through the window and I had 27 stitches in my arm.
Oh, that's another story, Mr. Thomas.
Right.
Now, when did you punch through the window, sir?
When I came home on the 16th, and I found on the 15th, Janelle was talking to me, and she was telling me that she was not going to let them in to do this, okay? She had downloaded information on the internet that this was illegal what they were doing. All three of them knew it. All three of them went ahead and did it.
I've already explained that to Miss Stein.
No, right.
She had no right to change the locks and put your stuff out.
Right.
She's going to try to explain that to Mr. Gladstone when he gets clear-headed.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Now, that doesn't excuse you from vandalizing the property.
It doesn't excuse it. It was something that was uncontrollable when I came home after she was telling me that she's not going to let them do this. I feel safe going to work, that my belongings are going to be okay, and I get home and everything is out in the pouring rain, uncovered, and my truck has been towed away, and I lost control. And I punched through the window, and it was that was a mistake.
Mr. Thomas, you've been living with Miss Howard for 5 years, you said?
Right.
Does Miss Howard take any medication?
No.
Is she under any kind of doctor's care?
No, but I think she should be, and she asked. She asked.
Quiet!
She's seriously stressed out from her job, and she asked Shoshana to go to the doctor, and Shoshana denied her to go to the doctor.
That is a lie. You think that any part of Miss Howard's stress is owing to the relationship that you had with her?
I would say yes, positively, but I would say that the stress started when she went to work for her, because this is a tug-of-war. Anything that she does, her job is in jeopardy, and her place to live is in jeopardy, and she's a control freak. So Janelle is scared to death, intimidated.
Mr. Thomas, do you take medication?
No.
Are you under any sort of doctor's regular care?
No.
So if you knew that Miss Howard was stressed, and I believe her when she said that she told you, please leave. We're not happy. We're not doing well together. We're not getting along together. I want you to leave. Why didn't you go?
She wasn't really clear about that. She
was very clear. I believe every word that she says.
Okay, but
she said she was stressed, that you were not physically abusive to her, but she felt as if you were mentally abusive to her. She wanted you to leave. Why didn't you leave?
Because I wanted to protect her from her boss, okay? And the thing is, she'll tell you that the reason that she wanted me to leave is more or less because that was the only thing that would save her job. She thinks it's the only job in the world and the only place to live in the world.
So you stayed on despite the fact that she asked you to leave in order to protect her. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Let's get to your counterclaim.
My counterclaim is the damage he did to my property, the terrorism he has caused me, the harassment, the extortion, the letters. This is all the evidence to extort. This is the pictures of the swastikas that were. This is where he broke in.
He acknowledges that he broke into your property. Do you have any witnesses to these other acts of vandalism?
Janelle and Gary.
You mean this Mr. Gladstone?
Yeah.
I'm not hearing him again. He doesn't know how to behave in court. Janelle, step up. Did you ever witness Mr. Thomas vandalizing Miss Stein's property?
No, didn't witness, no.
Did Mr. Thomas ever tell you that he vandalized
Yes.
Miss Stein's property?
Yes.
When did he tell you he vandalized Miss Stein's property?
After he saw his stuff outside, he got upset and put his hand through the window.
He acknowledges that. Any other acts of vandalism that he told you about?
He changed the locks because he couldn't get in, so he put his own on.
That's not vandalism. Anything else?
No.
Were there any other acts of vandalism, Mr. Thomas, that have your name on it?
No, but I see she has pictures that were from her other tenant, which was Janelle's cousin. That was the swastikas were from
Who
them.
you're friends with and you live with.
I don't
Stein,
live with.
Are you telling me that those were not pictures that you are attributing to Mr. Thomas?
No,
but to
I'm
somebody
showing
else?
these are the friends that he lives with, and that he was the one that coerced the other tenants to stay, so I had to evict them.
Anything else?
No.
The law is very clear. We have certain systems set up in this country and in every jurisdiction for landlords to, if they wish, to evict tenants. You chose not to avail yourself of that, and you chose to resort to self-help. You cannot do it. Now, I am sympathetic with only one person here, and I'm sympathetic with Janelle because Janelle asked Mr. Thomas to leave, and I have a sense just from hearing her that she is conflicted. that she's troubled, and that if she asked you to leave because things were not going well, if you truly cared for her, you would have gone. That does not give Ms. Stein license to do what she did. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all. Step out.
Step out. So wait here.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn, lại là mình đây. Các bạn ơi, hôm nay chúng mình sẽ làm tiếp bài tập số 3, phần B. Tính của phần luyện tập toán lớp 2 nhé. Phần tính này, phần B chúng mình có 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 phép tính. Tớ và các bạn sẽ cùng làm 4 phép tính này đơn giản nhé. Phép tính đầu tiên 9 cộng 5 cộng 1. 9 cộng 5 cộng 1 bằng. Phép tính thứ hai 5 cộng 3 cộng 4 bằng. Bây giờ 9 cộng 5 này, 9 cộng 5 sẽ bằng 9 cộng 1 cộng 4. Vậy là 9 cộng 5 bằng 14. 14 lại cộng thêm 1 nữa sẽ bằng 10 gì? 15. Đấy. Ở đây sẽ là 14 này, 14 cộng 1 là 15. Được chưa? Tiếp theo nào. 5 cộng 3 bằng 8. 8 cộng 4 bằng 12. Như vậy mình ra kết quả đầu tiên của hai phép tính này chưa? 8 cộng 4 bằng 12, tức là 8 cộng 2 bằng 10. 10 cộng với 2 nữa, tách số 4 này ra thành 2 cộng 2 ấy, đúng nào? Rồi, tương tự như vậy, hai phép tính tiếp theo phần B này. 7 cộng 2 cộng 6 8 cộng 4 cộng 5 Rồi 7 cộng 2 cộng 6. 7 cộng 2 bằng 9. 9 cộng 6 bằng bao nhiêu? 9 cộng 1 cộng 5 sẽ bằng 15. Đúng chưa nào? 8 cộng 4 sẽ bằng 10 gì? 12. 12 cộng 5 bằng 17. Vậy 15 và 17 là hai phép tính, là kết quả của hai phép tính cuối cùng trong phần B bài 1. Trong phần B bài 3, phần luyện tập toán lớp 2. Vậy để cùng mình làm bài 4, bài 5 nữa thì các bạn đừng quên nhấn like và đăng ký kênh nha. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn trong video tiếp theo.